Chapter 247. When the chorus came, Su Nianhua turned the microphone to the fans below the stage. "Sing with me, will you? She's listening." The sound of thousands of people singing came from the phone, decorating the lonely and empty little garden. "Do you know I'm waiting for you? Waiting for you to see the sunset. Do you know I'm waiting for you? Waiting for the east at dawn." Yi Huanyan only felt that the phone was covering her ear, and that warmth seemed to come from the other end, spreading all over her body. The romance and warmth that Su Nianhua gave her was something she could never forget, but she could only respond with her heart moved. "Thank you." Her voice was drowned out by the thousands of people singing in the stadium, but it kept replaying in Su Nianhua's heart over and over again. The gentle smile was tinged with a trace of bitterness. On the dazzling stage of the stadium, he smiled even more brilliantly. The fans below the stage were crazily shouting his name, shouting their love for him. He finally proved to her that his dream could come true. He finally showed her this grand scene. But there was no trace of her at the scene. Just a few words on the phone had already made his heart feel like it was being stabbed by a knife. She was not doing well, but there was nothing he could do. If he had known earlier, he would have given up the hard work of the past 10 years and stayed in the country, mediocre in guarding her. In the meeting room of the pleasure group's president's office, the live broadcast was playing the scene of the thousands of people singing in the LCD TV in the office. The managers of the various departments were discussing the popularity of this segment. "Was this segment planned beforehand?" someone asked. Without waiting for an answer, someone else suggested, "The response seems to be good. We can follow it in future concerts." "I don't think there was this in the plan." "Hey, did the people at the scene say anything? Did the call really go out?" "It seems so. The staff just called me and said that Su Nianhua did make a call. He was close and said it was a woman. Then we have to negotiate with the media for tomorrow's news, so they don't write nonsense." In the meeting room, the voices of the managers of the various departments were all at once. No one noticed that Ling Han's face was already ashen. "Pa!" The sound resounded throughout the entire conference room. Everyone was silent as they looked in the direction of the main table in astonishment. A folder was slammed onto the table from Ling Han's hand, raising a cloud of dust. It looked very innocent. Before anyone could react, all they saw was Ling Han's resolute figure leaving. What happened? What's wrong with President Ling? Everyone looked at each other. No one knew what had happened. Late at night, Yi Huanyan wrapped herself tightly in her clothes and returned to the villa. After listening to the song, she knew Anyuan in her heart. Perhaps everything will really be like what Su Nianhua said. The sunny days will always come back. A black car quietly parked in the garage. Ling Han got out of the car and walked straight into the house with a cold aura. Seeing that Ling Ling didn't come out to greet him as usual, he frowned slightly. Although he was suspicious, he didn't stay in the living room for long and went straight to the second floor. The bedroom door was not closed tightly, and a trace of warm yellow light came in. He could vaguely hear voices. Ling Han's hand that was about to push the door slightly paused. He only heard Yi Huanyan's gentle voice, and vaguely saw her figure through the crack of the door. She was wearing warm yellow pajamas, sitting on the bed, stroking her lower abdomen through the quilt, and whispering softly, "Baby, do you know? Your daddy is a very gentle person. When you are born, your daddy will definitely like you very much, so you must grow up obediently, and then be born healthy." Thinking of the scene of the live broadcast of the concert, Ling Han's eyes showed a trace of depression. Gentle person? Like Su Nianhua? He held the door frame with his hand, almost crushing the wood on the door frame. Yi Huanyan had no idea that Ling Han was at the door. After hearing Su Nianhua's song, she felt a little emotional. She thought of how she followed Jiang Milan to the Ling family after he went abroad that year and met Ling Han. She didn't dare to let Jiang Milan worry about the hurt in her heart, so she kept it in. After interacting with each other day and night, she found that her half-brother was a person who was cold on the outside, but warm on the inside. He always cared for her a lot in private. Speaking of which, Ling Han was really a very gentle person at that time. Although he had a vicious tongue and liked to make things difficult for her when he spoke, he was always smiling every day and didn't make her feel uncomfortable at all. They had known each other for more than 10 years. She originally thought that 10 years was enough for the two of them to understand each other. But unfortunately, the heavens didn't listen to her wishes. Thinking of this, she sighed again and said to herself, although you can't see your daddy, you have to believe that daddy is really good to mommy. You just didn't see it. There will definitely be a chance to see him. When you are born, he will come to see you. Just as she finished speaking, the bedroom door slammed against the wall with a loud bang. A figure appeared at the door. Under the light, it was a face with a bone-chilling coldness. I'm afraid this vile spawn won't be able to wait until then. Ling Han's voice was extremely cold. His eyes were bloodshot. When he thought about how he had wondered whether this child was really his after his grandmother had passed away, he felt that he was extremely stupid. What gentleness! What good to her! These things could only be done by Sun Yanhua. Han, why are you here? When Yi Huanyan heard his voice, she was happy at first, but in the next second, she suddenly understood the meaning of his words, and a chill spread through her body. Why can't I be here? This is my house, my home. Besides, if I didn't come, how could I hear your heartfelt words? Ling Han slowly walked closer. The gloominess on his face deepened. His sharp eyes swept over Yi Huanyan's face, as if he wanted to skin her alive. His eyes were full of hatred. What do you mean? Yi Huanyan was frightened by him. She shrank back on the bed with a blank expression. I heard everything. Sun Yanhua called you at the concert and sang for you? Very romantic, isn't it? He is so good to you, but you still stay by my side. What are you scheming? Yi Huanyan's body stiffened and she shook her head. I'm not. I'm just friends with him. I'm not scheming anything. Ling Han sneered and stood by the bed, staring at her condescendingly. Is that so? Don't tell me you don't want to use the child in your stomach to cheat the Ling family of their assets, and then fly away with Sun Yanhua? Do you really think I don't know anything? This child is yours. Nothing happened between me and him. Yi Huanyan's emotions were on the verge of breaking down. Her tears kept falling and she sobbed as she explained. She didn't know how many times she had to explain before Ling Han would believe her. The child is mine. It's yours. She nodded desperately. You're staying by my side because you love me? She gritted her teeth and nodded. Then you have to prove it to me. He bent down and pressed down on her shoulders. His other hand mercilessly tore open her pajamas, his eyes full of murderous intent. Chapter 248. His movements were too big. When he got on the bed, a pair of knees hit her lower abdomen through the blanket. Yi Huanyan's expression changed drastically. She screamed and pushed him away with all her might. She grabbed the corner of the blanket and wrapped herself tightly, locking herself in the corner of the bed as she trembled. Don't touch me. The anger in Ling Han's eyes deepened. He pulled the blanket away from her and threw it on the ground. She turned around to escape, but he grabbed the back of the collar of her pajamas and lifted her back. Her hands were pinned behind her back, and she knelt on the edge of the bed shamefully. She screamed, her eyes full of horror. Ling Han, let go of me. I beg you. For the sake of the child, don't touch me. Don't touch me. Before she could finish speaking, she felt a chill pass through her crotch. A cold wind blew. His other hand had already ripped off her pajamas, revealing her snow-white thighs and black underwear. The impact of his senses made Ling Han lose his mind. Hearing her beg for mercy and hearing her mention the child, the anger in his heart could no longer be suppressed. She heard the cold sound of a belt being unbuckled in the air, and the edge of her black underwear was torn to the crook of her leg. Yi Huanyan struggled in horror and screamed, but she still couldn't stop him from humiliating her. Not long after, he unbuttoned his pants and used his knees to open her legs. He knelt behind her, lifted her waist, and then violently penetrated her. There was no foreplay, and the dry friction caused a piercing pain to her flesh. The tearing pain made Yi Huanyan's eyes widen. Her forehead was covered with fine cold sweat. When she was penetrated, her face was pale. Ah! Her shrill scream echoed throughout the room. The man frowned and groaned. He gritted his teeth, and his eyes were burning with anger. He took her again and again, running around behind her. He didn't use any technique. He was just rough and merciless, tormenting her body. She struggled and screamed, but there was no joy in it. She couldn't feel any warmth. He flipped her body over and asked her condescendingly, "Is it me or Su Nianhua who can satisfy you in bed?" Yi Huanyan stared at him in a daze. She opened her mouth a few times, but her throat was so hoarse that she couldn't make a sound. She wanted to explain, but he never listened. Finally, she slowly closed her eyes, tears falling from the corners of her eyes. Seeing that she didn't say anything, Ling Han only thought that she was silently agreeing. The anger in his chest that had been suppressed with great difficulty suddenly surged up again. He squeezed her shoulder with one hand, almost crushing her bones, and roared, "Yi Huanyan, don't even think about a single cent of the Ling family's assets. I won't allow that bastard in your stomach to exist either, so give up." After saying this, he violently broke in again. The dry friction increased in frequency, and the pain of being dragged naked on the concrete floor spread all over her body. Yi Huanyan screamed. Under his continuous thrusts, her face turned pale, and sweat poured down like rain. However, she couldn't break free from his shackles. She could only protect her stomach with all her might. Her skeleton was broken by his thrusts, but she didn't care about any of this, as long as the child was alive. The empty look in her eyes made Ling Han feel humiliated. Was the child so important to her? That unquenchable anger made him endlessly take her body all night long. He didn't know when he would be satisfied. For a moment, he even wanted to crush her and embed her into his own body. Yi Huanyan screamed and struggled at the beginning, but in the end, she could only weakly hold her stomach and let him torment her. After that, the strange flush on her face faded away, leaving behind a pale white. She opened her eyes, which were full of emptiness. She curled up by the bed motionless. Ling Han cleaned up the marks on his body. His upper body was naked, and he turned around to look at her. Her shoulder had his fingerprints, and her snow-white skin was covered with bruises and red marks. When he turned around, he saw her trembling all over, looking at him in horror. Her eyes were full of fear, and other than fear, there was only despair. Seeing her weak appearance, Ling Han had a strange feeling in his heart. It was as if he was annoyed, but also as if he was unwilling. He couldn't describe the feeling, but when he saw her face, he felt as if he had fallen into an ice cellar. He had never felt like this before. In the end, he picked up the quilt on the ground and hurriedly covered her body. Then he pushed open the revolving door and walked into his room. He lit a cigarette and stood in front of the window, looking at the mountains in the distance. There was a trace of indescribable exhaustion between his eyebrows. After Ling Han left, Yi Huanyan held her stomach. The swelling in her lower body was still coming in waves, making her feel unbearable pain. Her other hand held the quilt and couldn't stop trembling. Her eyes were full of tears, and she couldn't stop crying, soaking the pillow. Outside the window, the night was dark. Some people trembled in fear until dawn, while others didn't sleep at all. Cigarette butts piled up in the glass ashtray by the window. The sun had just risen from the east when the master bedroom door opened, and a tall figure walked out. Ling Ling came back in the middle of the night. When she came back, she saw the garage door open and Ling Han's car. She didn't know why, but her intuition told her that something bad was going to happen. She immediately rushed into the house. From the bedroom on the second floor came heart-wrenching screams, and a lot of unbearable humiliation. Her hand holding the stairs couldn't help but tremble. She didn't have the courage to take another step. Wasn't the child in Miss Ye's stomach young master's? How was that possible? Those shrill screams made her not dare to stay any longer. She quickly went back into the house and closed the door. She closed her eyes and stuffed herself under the quilt. She only dared to tell herself that it would be fine, that it would be fine. The next morning, she put breakfast on the table and looked upstairs. She paced back and forth in the living room, full of hesitation. A series of heavy footsteps came. She froze and looked upstairs. "Young master." Her voice was trembling. Ling Han looked at her and didn't say anything. He walked downstairs. "Young master, do you want to eat breakfast?" Ling Ling asked. "No need. I still have work to do at the company." After saying this, he walked out the door in large strides. Ling Ling let out a sigh of relief, then turned and ran upstairs. Yi Huanyan's house was a mess. A thin figure was lying on the bed with her back to the door. She was covered with a snow-white quilt. When Ling Ling saw her face, she panicked. "Missy," she called several times, but there was no response. She hurriedly touched her forehead. It was very hot. "Missy." After calling a few more times, she lifted the quilt and found that there was a clear bloodstain on the quilt. It was spreading at a speed visible to the naked eye. Ling Ling immediately covered her mouth. She was so scared that her face turned pale. Ling Han had just walked to the garage when he heard a shrill scream coming from the balcony. "Young master, Missy is bleeding a lot." He froze and the car keys slipped out of his hand. Pa! They hit the ground. Chapter 249. In front of the hospital's operating room. Ling Ling looked at the red light on the door anxiously. She was so anxious that she was about to cry. If the child can't be saved, how can Missy live? Ling Han frowned and looked at her. He said coldly, "Did she say that if the child is gone she won't live? If that's the case?" Ling Ling's face froze. Only then did she remember that Ling Han was still behind her. No, she didn't say that. Seeing Ling Han's gloomy face, she quickly explained, "But Missy doesn't like to go out or talk since she came back. She's only willing to say a few words when the child is mentioned. I can see that the child is her only support now." Ling Han's face darkened even more. His voice was very cold. "It's just a child. If it's gone, we can always have another." Before the operation, the doctor had said that the mother would be fine, but the child might not be saved. Ling Ling looked at Ling Han and gritted her teeth. She made up her mind and said in a choked voice, "Young master, maybe you don't think it's a big deal, but the child is one with the mother. It's like a piece of the mother's flesh. How can she give it up? If anything happens to the child, I'm afraid Missy will be depressed in the future." Ling Han frowned and stared at Ling Ling. Just as he was about to speak, he saw the doctor come out of the operating room. "How is it?" he asked. The doctor looked at Ling Han meaningfully. "Who are you to her?" Ling Han frowned. "I'm her husband. There's no problem. The bleeding is because of external injuries. She just needs to rest well in the future. She can't have sex until her wounds are completely healed. Even after she gives birth, she can't have sex anymore." After saying this, the doctor stared at Ling Han unhappily. He couldn't help but say, "It's okay for a young couple to be young and vigorous. But you have to be careful. If you hurt your body, it's going to be a big problem. You're going to be a father. Why can't you control yourself?" Ling Ling's face turned red. When she saw the bed being pushed out, she quickly followed it, leaving Ling Han alone in the corridor to listen to the doctor's scolding. He didn't show any displeasure. He allowed the doctor to say a few words and followed him to go through the hospitalization procedures. When Yi Huanyan woke up, there was no one around her. She was in a small, clean room. Looking around, she could only see blue or white. It was very cold. She touched her lower abdomen and heaved a sigh of relief when she found that the child was still there. Missy, why are you up?" Ling Ling was standing at the door with a hot water bottle in her hand. When she saw Yi Huanyan sit up in bed, she let out a cry of surprise. She hurriedly put down the water bottle and walked over to the bed. "The doctor said that your wound has been stitched up, so you can't move around now." Yi Huanyan's fair fingers touched her lower abdomen through the quilt. She looked up at Ling Ling, her eyes full of questions. "The child is fine. The doctor said that it's just an external wound. Stay in the hospital for observation for a few days. If it doesn't bleed, we can leave." Yi Huanyan nodded and lay back on the pillow. She turned her gaze to the door. "Young master sent you here. He waited until the surgery was over. Then he left after receiving a call. He told me to take good care of you. Young master still cares about you." Yi Huanyan's eyes dimmed a little. She didn't comment. Did he care? If he really cared, why would he let her lie in this place covered in scars time and time again? She had accumulated too much disappointment. If it weren't for this child, she really didn't know if she would have been able to hold on. In an open space by the river in the suburbs of Lanjiang City, a bulldozer was carrying out preliminary repairs on the ground. Ling Han was in the middle of the crowd, wearing a hard hat. Even though he was wearing an orange hard hat, it still couldn't change his noble temperament. Standing in the crowd with a height of 187 meters, he was always particularly eye-catching. Beside him stood the senior engineer of the real estate project, who was holding a blueprint and explaining to the open space in front of him. Our resort is mainly planned to be built according to the Lanjiang River. Plus, this place is close to Tangshan. A few hot springs can be used as the resort signboard. The engineer talked about a lot of ideas and waited for Ling Han to speak. After waiting for a long time, he didn't hear anything. At first he thought that he had said something wrong. When he looked up, he saw that Ling Han looked absent-minded, staring at the river in the distance. President Ling? He hesitated and called out. Ling Han quickly came back to his senses and said calmly, "Let's do as you say." At the factory entrance not far from this open space, a young woman dressed elegantly got out of a black Rolls-Royce. She had a limited edition black Chanel clutch in her hand. When she got out of the car, she was blinded by the flying dust. She couldn't help but raise her hand to block the dust, and looked at the construction site in the distance. She said in disgust, "What's going on? Isn't that our land? When did we start developing it?" As soon as the young woman spoke, her tone was very sharp. The man who looked like an assistant said respectfully, "It's President Ling Han from the Pleasure Group, President Ling. After President Zhuang went to prison a year ago, the bidding for this land was put on hold. Later on, the Pleasure Group bought it. It seems to be similar to President Zhuang's project at that time. They are also developing a resort." Hearing that, the young woman laughed disapprovingly. "What President Zhuang? She's already a prisoner. If you ask me, this land is useless. We're building a cement factory here, and they're building a resort. The sewage discharged here will mix with their resort sewage. Who would dare to go there? This Ling is the same as Zhuang Suqiu. She's as stupid as Zhuang Suqiu." After saying that, she walked into the factory. Suddenly, she caught a glimpse of a tall figure in the middle of the crowd from the corner of her eye. Her eyes froze, and she stopped in her tracks. His figure was tall and handsome, especially his eyes that were as deep as a pool of water. His dignified appearance made people unable to look away from him in the dust. "Who did you just say was that person?" She was a little stunned. The assistant was stunned. President Ling of the Pleasure Group. While the young woman was in a daze, a figure in a suit walked out of the factory. He was past his middle age, and could no longer find the heroic bearing of the past. The expensive suit did not seem to be able to hide his bloated figure. "Mayor, why are you standing at the door? There's so much dust." The middle-aged man smiled as soon as he saw her. He put his hand on her shoulder, and looked at her bulging belly with a smile. "How's my good son today?" The young woman quickly came back to her senses, and gently broke free from his arms. She said coquettishly, "There's someone here." The man didn't care and laughed. "So what? You're going to marry me anyway. You have my son in your belly. This is my first son, so I'll definitely treasure him like a treasure." The young woman's face darkened slightly. "But President Zhuang will be out soon. Will you talk to her about divorce?" The middle-aged man frowned and hesitation appeared in his eyes. Chapter 250. The sun was setting, and the sky outside the window was dyed red. Yi Huanyan sat up with the help of Lingling. There were 2 thick pillows behind her, and the nourishing food and soup that Lingling brought from home were on the small table. She ate 2 mouthfuls, but felt that there was no taste in her mouth. She couldn't eat anymore. "Even if it's for the child, you should eat more." Ling was a little anxious. Yi Huanyan was so thin that she was almost out of shape. She was originally a great beauty, but now she looked like a child from a poor family who lacked food and drink. Yi Huanyan frowned. "Leave it for now. I'll eat when I'm hungry." She also wanted to eat more, but after what happened last night, she felt more and more uneasy. She felt that as long as Ling Han didn't untie the knot in his heart, the child in her belly wouldn't be able to safely wait until the day of birth. She couldn't eat, but she couldn't think of any other way. Seeing that she couldn't persuade her, Ling could only sigh. She took the hot water bottle and walked out of the ward. "Why are you sighing?" A cold voice sounded from above her head. Ling's hand trembled and almost dropped the bottle. She looked up and saw Ling Han's expressionless face. "Young master, How is she? Ling Han asked. Seeing his concerned expression, Ling Ling was delighted and hurriedly said, She's awake but she won't eat. She said she can't eat. Young master, do you want to go take a look? Hearing this, Ling Han frowned and went directly into the ward. As soon as he entered the room, he saw Yi Huanyan staring at the opposite window in a daze. There was no trace of relaxation on her pale face, which made his heart tighten. Ling Han felt a lot of regret. After the incident, he had been absent-minded all day. He blamed himself, or else he wouldn't have come to see her. Hearing the sound of footsteps, Yi Huanyan slowly turned her head. The moment she saw Ling Han, her expression clearly tensed. Her eyes revealed a look of fear, and her shoulders trembled. She gripped the blanket tightly and looked at him vigilantly. Ling Han's footsteps paused. He was shocked by her fully armed expression. He had really scared her yesterday. His gaze was hesitant as he glanced at the food on the small table from the corner of his eyes. Only then did he open his mouth. Ling Ling said, You don't eat, right? Yi Huanyan's face stiffened. After a while, she said in a hoarse voice, I'll eat later. The food will be cold soon. Ling Han frowned. Regardless of whether she was afraid or not, he sat directly by the bed. Probably because he touched her, he only felt her body tremble, and the whole bed trembled. He pretended not to see it. Holding the thermos flask and a spoon, he looked up at her. Open your mouth. Yi Huanyan was stunned. It's not poisonous. Ling Han looked at her coldly. He didn't know why, but when the words of concern reached his mouth, they always had a different taste. Yi Huanyan was afraid that he would be angry, so after hesitating for a while, she finally opened her mouth. The spoon touched her chapped lips. The warm bone broth was very fragrant. Sip after sip, her cold limbs gradually found some warmth. She didn't know why Ling Han suddenly changed his attitude towards her. It seemed like it was always like this. He could always switch between being warm and cold, and she couldn't cooperate with him to make any preparations. When the bowl of soup was finished, Ling Han put down the thermos flask and wiped his hands with a paper towel. Yi Huanyan seemed to catch a sigh of relief in his eyes. She wasn't sure if she had seen wrongly. Yi Huanyan. He wiped his hands and suddenly called her name. She was startled and replied in a daze. You must hate me for treating you like this, right? Yi Huanyan stared at him blankly. Hate. Maybe that should be the case. Maybe she should have hated him long ago. From the moment he humiliated her in every way. From the moment he believed Sheng Anren and let her go to prison. From the moment he said that the child in her belly was a bastard. From the moment the old lady died, he mocked her hypocrisy. From the moment he said that she stayed with him for another purpose. The more you love, the more you hate. But she couldn't hate him. She had countless reasons to hate him. But now there was a reason that she couldn't abandon to hate him. She gripped the corner of the blanket, her eyes full of sadness. I don't hate you. You are the father of my child. Whether you believe it or not. No matter what kind of woman you think I am. No one knows better than me who this child is. Time tore open the wound again and again. After so many times, it could make people numb. When she said this, she didn't expect Ling Han to change his mind at all. He was so determined and unwilling to admit that this child was his. Sometimes, she even wondered if he was sure that this child wasn't his, or if he didn't want this child to be his at all. Just because she was Jiang Milan's daughter. Just because she had Jiang Milan's blood in her body, and the child in her belly also had it. However, Ling Han's question was not part of her thoughts. He stared at her for a long time. His tone was calm and unusually rational. You're still by my side now just because of this child? Yi Huanyan's heart tightened. Yes. When she said this word, it was as if a big hole had been dug out of her heart, and something had been dug out of her skin and flesh. She denied all of her love and longing for him, and placed all of her chips on the child in her stomach. She bet that her desperate gamble would make Ling Han believe the importance of this child, and also bet that he would believe that this child was his because of her attitude. Ling Han's expression softened a little, and he didn't get angry at the mention of this child in the past. When Ling Ling came back, she happened to see him leaving. Her footsteps were hurried. She had never seen him like this before. When he got into the driver's seat, His hands on the steering wheel trembled slightly. Was this child really his? Yi Huanyan's confident attitude made him hesitate. Yi Huanyan didn't go out alone many times. If she didn't return home all night, it would be the night before the annual meeting. Even if something really happened between her and Su Nianhua, compared to the frequency of her sleeping with him almost every night for more than a year, how likely was it that the child was someone else's? He couldn't remember when he didn't use safety measures, but this didn't mean that he didn't. After all, who could remember clearly when he was drunk? He panicked and looked at the dashboard with a stiff expression. If it was really his, then what had he done all these days? If it was really his, then there were several times when he almost killed his own child with his own hands. Beep! The loud sound of the horn scared the passers-by, and a few of them almost dropped the things in their hands. The passers-by were all pointing at the black car. The handsome man in the driver's seat clenched his hands into fists and slammed them on the steering wheel. The pain in his eyes was obvious. Chapter 251. Lanjiang City, Ningjiang District Resort. In the luxurious hotel suite, the assistant placed a craft envelope on the desk respectfully. This is the DNA test result, and some supplementary information from more than 20 years ago. This evidence is enough to prove that Jiang Milin is Jiang Hui. A silver-haired man in pajamas sat behind the desk. His silver hair was still wet. He had just showered and smelled faintly of men's cologne. He looked sleepy and looked like he had just woken up with a hangover. He took the envelope and was about to open it when he suddenly saw the hesitation on the assistant's face. What's wrong? Is there anything else? Young master, Miss Yi is in the hospital now. It seems like she just had an operation. The silver-haired man was stunned and stood up abruptly. What happened? When did this happen? Why are you only telling me now? You were drunk last night, and no one dared to call you. I've been keeping an eye on the hospital. Nothing serious happened. The operation went smoothly, and the child was saved. She's now in the hospital. Gu Xinian flipped the paper bag in his hand and slammed it on the desk. The entire desk shook and made a loud bam sound. Where is Ling Han? Where was he when Yin Yin had the operation? The assistant trembled all over and said with trepidation. President Ling accompanied Miss Yi to the hospital and waited at the entrance of the operating room until the operation was over. He even went to see Miss Yi this afternoon. I guess it's just that Miss Yi's body isn't very good, so she was sent to the hospital. The last time he saw young master lose control of his emotions was when Madame passed away. Gu Xinian was silent for a few seconds. He looked down at the thick envelope and took a deep breath. His face was gloomy. Prepare the car. Wait for me downstairs in 10 minutes. We're going to the hospital. Yes. Night fell. Yi Huanyan couldn't sleep because of the conversation with Ling Han in the morning. Ling sat on the sofa and was yawning nonstop. She was still staring at the ceiling in a daze. Miss Yi, why aren't you sleeping? It's 10 o'clock. Yi Huanyan snapped back to reality and glanced at her. You don't have to accompany me. Rest. It's okay. I'll take a nap. Not long after he said this, Ling's even breathing could be heard in the room. Yi Huanyan got up and covered her with a blanket. Just as she finished covering her with the blanket, she heard the sound of the door opening behind her. She turned around and was slightly stunned when she saw who it was. On the balcony of the hospital corridor, the night wind was strong. Gu Xinian took off his coat and covered her shoulders. You know everything? She asked. I just found out. Otherwise, I would have come to see you earlier. Gu Xinian's face was gloomy, and his voice was deeper than usual. Do you have to stay by his side? There are plenty of men in this world. If you ask me, you should come with me. Yi Huanyan's heart skipped a beat, and her expression changed slightly. What you said is only your speculation. It doesn't prove anything. Whether it's a guess or not, you'll understand everything after you read it. I'm not lying to you at all, and there's no need for me to lie to you. You're free to choose your own life, and you're not bound by anyone. After saying this, Gu Xinian turned around and glanced at his assistant, who was standing in the distance. The assistant understood and quickly handed the paper envelope in his hand to Yi Huanyan. He explained, This is the result of the DNA test and Jiang Mailan's previous information. There's also the hospital where you were born, as well as all the information that was kept by the hospital in Lu Shui after you were born. The thick paper envelope seemed to weigh 1,000 pounds in her hands. The truth was right in front of her. Yi Huanyan suddenly felt a little afraid. She was afraid that her past 26 years had been for nothing. Seeing her hesitant expression, the assistant frowned and said, "Miss Yi, do you want me to open it for you?" Ha! Yi Huanyan raised her head in a daze and looked at him blankly, as if she didn't hear what he said. Gu Xinian glanced at the assistant with a slightly displeased expression. The assistant hurriedly retreated far away, and didn't dare to urge her again. "It's okay. You can think about it carefully before you open it." Gu Xinian's voice was gentle and kind. It made her feel safe. She hesitated for a moment, but in the end, she untied the string on the envelope and took out a stack of papers. They were all stapled. The first page was the DNA test result from the hospital. Yi Huanyan stared blankly at the certificate issued by the hospital. The last line was clearly written in black and white. Both parties are biological siblings from the same father and mother. The second page was Jiang Mailan's information. Jiang Mailan, who was only 22 years old, was young and beautiful. However, she didn't resemble Yi Huanyan at all. According to the information, Jiang Mailan's original name was Jiang Hui. 26 years ago, she worked as a nurse in Lu Shui County Hospital. Then, there was some evidence of Jiang Hui owing gambling debts and being chased by loan sharks. 26 years ago, in the beginning of summer, she resigned from the county hospital and disappeared without a trace. At the same time, a little girl who was born during that time also disappeared. It's true. She staggered and the information book in her hand fell to the ground with a bang, raising a cloud of dust. Gu Xinian quickly supported her. After stabilizing her, he slowly squatted down and picked up the information book. His expression was firm. "It's true. You're the second miss of the Gu family, who disappeared from the hospital 26 years ago. The Gu family has been looking for you for 26 years. Even though Gu Xinian had told her on the day he was released from prison, she had always thought that it was a misunderstanding. Gu Xinian had found the wrong person. She was Jiang Mailan's daughter, her biological daughter. How could it not be? Yi Huanyan couldn't believe it. Why? How could she be the one who kidnapped me? All these years, she has been treating me like her biological daughter. This doesn't make sense. Gu Xinian looked at her confused expression and said slowly, "Jiang Hui had a father who was addicted to gambling. 26 years ago, he owed 50,000 yuan to a gambling den. The people there forced Jiang Hui to pay it back, so she went to borrow money from loan sharks. Later, when the interest accumulated to 500,000 yuan, she couldn't pay it back. In addition, her father died of a heart attack, so all the debts fell on her alone. That's why she set her sights on you. 26 years ago, the young mistress of the Gu family returned to the country to worship Buddha at the temple in the suburbs of Lanjiang. She suddenly gave birth prematurely when she passed by Lu Shui County. They could only go to the county hospital first. Fortunately, after the child was born safely, the young mistress of the Gu family stayed in the hospital temporarily and waited for the Gu family to pick her up. At that time, the nurse in charge of taking care of the young mistress had just started her internship at the county hospital. She was pretty and sweet. When the young mistress was happy, she gave her many gifts. One of them was a bracelet that was worth more than 10,000 yuan. Seeing that the young mistress was so generous, Jiang Hui thought about her recent situation and harbored evil intentions. She carried the newborn child out of the hospital and hid her at home to take care of her. She originally planned to extort a sum of money from the young mistress, then call the hospital and ask them to send the money to a designated place. Then, she would tell them where she hid the child. She didn't expect that on the day she carried the child away, the Gu family would arrive at the hospital. The Gu family was one of the 4 largest financial groups in the world. With a stomp of their feet, they could collapse the entire Lu Shui County. Jiang Hui panicked. She didn't even dare to call the Gu family to extort money. She handed in her resignation letter on the same day and fled Lushui County with the child. She changed her name and hid for 5 years. Chapter 252. The evening wind blew gently. The jacket on her shoulders shielded her from the cold, but it still made Yi Huanyan feel cold from the bottom of her heart. Gu Xinyan's words opened up a huge hole in Yi Huanyan's memory. All her memories of the past 26 years were messed up and restarted. She was not Jiang Mailan's daughter. From the beginning of her life, it was a huge misunderstanding. Then why did Ling Han hate her because she was Jiang Mailan's daughter? Seeing her dazed look, Gu Xinyan frowned. You are the second miss of the Gu family. You have the right to do whatever you want. You don't have to listen to anyone. You can live however you want. Come back to America with me. Dad and Mom are waiting for you at home. Yi Huanyan looked confused. Do I still have parents? Yes, you still have a happy family. Dad and Mom are in good health. We have been looking for you all these years. The evening wind blew the strands of hair in front of Yi Huanyan's forehead and messed up her mind. All of this happened too suddenly. She was not prepared. It was as if the world would change completely if she nodded. Let me think about it. Her figure was especially petite in the wide suit jacket. It was as if the wind could blow her away. Gu Xinyan watched her leave in a hurry. He suddenly thought of the girl at home, who was spoiled by her parents just because she was similar in age to her. Their fates were completely different. It made his heart ache. Thinking of this, his eyes immediately revealed some unbearable feelings. And behind this unbearable feelings was his displeasure towards Ling Han. While investigating Jiang Mailan, of course he found out the truth behind Wen Qingwan's death. At the same time, he also found out about the grudge between Ling Han and Yi Huanyan. If not for the fact that Yi Huanyan really could not let go of Ling Han, he definitely would not have shown mercy to the person who hurt his sister again and again. Young master, what should we do next? Send someone home tomorrow to report that Miss has been found. Let them be mentally prepared. After Yin Yin gives birth, I will bring her back. Yes. The original plan was to go to Lanjiang City to do some work and search for someone. Now that the person had been found, all that was left was unfinished business. After a few seconds of silence, Gu Xinyan seemed to have thought of something and said in a deep voice, Have you found Fu Yingxiang? At the mention of Fu Yingxiang, the assistant's face darkened. Not yet. The king of gamblers is very cautious. His men have hidden Miss Fu too well. After leaving Hong Kong, they disappeared without a trace. Later on, we found traces of the king of gamblers' men in Lanjiang City, but before we could contact them, they were taken away by Guangyang's men. But I think Guangyang's men are the same as us. Hearing this, Gu Xinyan's expression did not change. His silver hair fluttered in the wind, and the cross stud on his left ear emitted a faint cold light in the dark night. Prepare a carpet search in Lanjiang City. Don't miss a single corner. The king of gamblers' men may not be reliable. As long as one of them leaks out, Guangyang's men will make the first move. Yes. Yi Huanyan returned to the ward in a panic, and did not sleep for the entire night. Even though Gu Xinyan had provided enough evidence to prove her identity, she could not get over the hurdle in her heart. She felt that this was a misunderstanding. How could Jiang Mailan not be her mother? If it wasn't for her mother, then how would she be able to clear up all the sins that she had suffered? The next morning, Yi Huanyan woke up and washed up. There were 2 dark circles under her eyes and Ling Ling's heart ached when she saw them. Miss Yi, did you not sleep at all last night? Look at your eyes. I slept. I'll go find you 2 eggs. You look too haggard. Ling Ling sighed and turned to walk out of the bathroom. Suddenly, she caught a glimpse of the figure on the sofa from the corner of her eyes. She took a deep breath. Young master, what are you? Ling Han glanced at her indifferently. She immediately covered her mouth and sneaked a glance at the bathroom. Obviously, Yi Huanyan did not hear what she said. Yi Huanyan finished washing her face and yawned as she walked out. Because she was absent-minded, she did not notice the figure on the sofa until she reached the bedside. Didn't sleep well last night? A cold voice fell into her ears, and her body stiffened. She looked at the source of the voice in surprise, and saw Ling Han sitting on the sofa, looking at her with a serious expression. She was stunned and incoherently explained. The bed is not very comfortable. I'm not used to it. Ling Han glanced at the single bed and frowned slightly. I'll change you to another room in the afternoon. Eat first. Until Ling Han pulled out the small table on her bed, placed the thermos box on the small table, and stuffed the spoon into her hand. She was still in a daze, as if she had lost her soul, and did not react. Why are you? What's wrong? Seeing that she was hesitating, he asked. Ling Han looked at her with a frown and sat down beside her. His expression was cold, and his tone was somewhat distant. Since you said that this child is mine, I'll believe you for the time being. For the sake of this child, I'll treat you better. But don't think too highly of yourself. Everything I do is to make up for this child. As you said, the child is innocent. Yi Huanyan's face stiffened, and the doubts in her heart gradually disappeared. Was it because of what she said yesterday that he finally believed that this child was his? So the mother's status depended on the child's status? Yi Huanyan's rationality told her that she should be grateful and happy with this result. After all, he finally acknowledged the child's identity and would not ask her to give up this child's life for no reason in the future. She pulled the corners of her mouth and tried to show a satisfied smile, but her heart was so bitter that she could not smile. She could only lower her head and use the action of eating porridge to hide all her emotions. Ling Han sat on the sofa at the side, reading the newspaper. He raised his head to look at her from time to time. He did not say anything and sat quietly until she finished her meal. Then he opened his mouth. If the taste is not good, I'll change to another breakfast shop next time. I bought Lufang Zhai today. The taste of the buns there is not bad, but the porridge is average. Yi Huanyan was stunned for a moment. Then she shook her head and said softly, It's pretty good. No need to trouble yourself. Next time, I'll ask Ling Ling to buy breakfast from the hospital cafeteria. Ling Han acted as if he did not hear what she said. He picked up his suit jacket from the sofa and stood up. He said lightly, Rest well. Tell me if you need anything. I'm leaving first. I'll come see you tonight. When he left, Yi Huanyan glanced at the time. It was 8:30 p.m. The time when he usually went to work. Just because of what she said last night, his attitude was much better than usual. It was as if they were a couple who treated each other with respect. However, this kind of respect and care seemed to have become a step-by-step rule, and she couldn't feel the slightest bit of warmth. Yi Huanyan lowered her head and looked at her lower abdomen with a bitter expression. Chapter 253. After that day, when Yi Huanyan was hospitalized for a week, Ling Han would come to the hospital in the morning and evening. He would also ask Xiaomu to personally deliver a sumptuous lunch at noon. Yi Huanyan felt a bit awkward at first, but after a few days, she felt relieved. No matter what the reason was, it was better than his arrogant attitude in the past. A week later, Yi Huanyan was discharged from the hospital, and Ling Han personally came to pick her up. Although his expression was still cold and indifferent, his attitude already made Yi Huanyan very grateful. After moving back to the Jinjiang Park apartment, Yi Huanyan was surprised to find that the nursery had been renovated. In the past, it was only a guest room that had been renovated. She and Ling Ling had done it bit by bit when they had nothing to do. Now the entire layout of the room had obviously undergone a major change. From the color of the floor and wallpaper to the furnishings, everything was there. Standing at the door of the nursery, Yi Huanyan felt a warmth in her heart. She could almost see the scene of the family of three playing in the nursery after the baby was born. Do you like it? Ling Han's voice came from behind her. She was slightly taken aback and nodded cautiously. Ling Han put his arm around her shoulders. His eyes were a bit tired, but they gradually relaxed. I've thought about it. The matters of the previous generation end here. Live well in the future. In fact, he had wanted to say these words after the funeral when he had calmed down. He burned Wen Qingwan's diary and the evidence that Jiang Mailan had deliberately caused the car accident because he wanted to start afresh. He realized that he had not agreed to marry Yi Huanyan because of his grandmother's pleas. It was the deepest desire in his heart. He wanted her to stay by his side. However, Too many unforeseen events had happened, so he did not know how to say it to make Yi Huanyan feel at ease. During that time when he ignored her, he thought a lot. There were also some problems in the company. He followed the clues and found that it was related to the Gu Corporation. He thought of the suspicious relationship between Gu Xinian and Yi Huanyan, so he was sure that the Gu Corporation was deliberately targeting him. Pleasure and the Gu Corporation had no conflict of interest, so Gu Xinian's attack on him could only be because of what he said on the highway that day. He did it for Yi Huanyan. In addition, Su Nianhua's affectionate confession at the concert really angered him and made him lose his mind. That was why he did those things that made him regret. At this point, there were many things that could not be undone. When Yi Huanyan was pushed into the operating theater, he suddenly felt that even if the child was not his, he could still be with her peacefully and peacefully. When such a thought appeared in his mind, he couldn't help but think of the hatred he had for Yi Huanyan over the past year. Did she really not hate him? After she woke up, he finally asked such a question. He did not know what answer he expected. Did she still love him? Or did she really hate him? But her answer was only one sentence. I don't hate you, because you are the child's biological father. At that moment, it was as if he was in an ice cellar. It was as if his scalp was numb. In the end, only this child was left between them. When he thought of the harm he had done to her in the past, his heart was like dead ashes. Indeed, she had no reason to continue loving a man who had humiliated and hurt her time and time again. What other reason was there for her to still stay by his side? It was only because of that child. He believed that the child was his, and it was the only link between him and Yi Huanyan now. He put his arm around Yi Huanyan's shoulder and tried to make himself forget all the unpleasantness. He treated her calmly and tried to make her no longer have that kind of frightened expression when she saw him. The warmth on her shoulder had penetrated to the bottom of Yi Huanyan's heart. That kind of joy could not be expressed in words. She could only lean on Ling Han's arms, pursing her lips and looking at the arranged nursery in front of her. In the end, she could not help but have a layer of mist in her eyes. People were always greedy. After he was willing to admit this child, she began to look forward to it again. Could he still give her a little more love? At the reception desk of the Pleasure Group building, the receptionist looked helpless. Miss Sheng, President Ling is really not in the office. He has left early recently. Sheng Anren wore sunglasses and raised her chin with an overbearing look. She scolded. What do you mean he has left early recently? What time is it now? 3 o'clock. Is it reasonable to leave at 3 in the afternoon? Who gave you the right to stop me? Do you know who I am? The receptionist was scolded by her and didn't dare to say anything. The whole company knew that she had an unusual relationship with the big boss, but she couldn't let people without access cards in and out at will. This was also an order from above, and she couldn't help but obey it. Moreover, President Ling seemed to have deliberately avoided Sheng Anren in recent days. This matter was also handled by the secretary. Secretary Dong had hinted to her. Who dared to let her go up? I said that I have something to do with President Ling. I have come here 3 times this week. Every time you say that he is not in. What's the matter with you? President Ling is really not in. A melodious female voice sounded behind Sheng Anren. The receptionist suddenly raised her head and looked over Sheng Anren to the person who came. Her eyes suddenly showed the joy of being pardoned. Secretary Dong, Sheng Anren frowned, took off her sunglasses and looked back. She said scornfully, "Oh, who is it? Secretary Dong, you come at the right time. Why don't you tell me who gave the order to the receptionist to guard against me?" Secretary Dong, dressed in a professional suit, had a bit of Yi Huanyan's aura. She looked up at Sheng Anren calmly and said seriously, "All the orders from the president are given by President Ling. All the orders in the company come from President Ling's instructions. Since you are so close to President Ling, how can you not know about such a small thing?" "What do you mean?" Sheng Anren's face darkened. "I just want to see Ling Han. Is it your turn to talk nonsense?" "Miss Sheng, don't be angry. It's not our turn to care about you and President Ling. What I want to say is that President Ling is really not in the company. He is very busy these 2 days. Very busy these 2 days." Sheng Amren raised her eyebrows. What about 2 days later? Give me an exact time. She didn't want to make things unpleasant with the people around Ling Han. After Yi Huanyan left, there was only one chief secretary working beside Ling Han in the secretary office. If she played any tricks on her, she would be overwhelmed. Secretary Dong said with a fake smile. I'm afraid you'll have to contact President Ling yourself. President Ling is working from home during this time. What? Sheng Amren's face suddenly fell. Working from home? Which home? What do you think? President Ling has several homes. This is his personal matter, and he won't tell us. Secretary Dong looked polite on the surface, but in reality, she didn't take Sheng Amren seriously. She was brought up by Yi Huanyan, and had always looked down on women like Sheng Amren, who thought highly of themselves. She also learned from Qiao Mu that Yi Huanyan was pregnant and hospitalized, so she naturally thought that Sheng Amren's pestering attitude was clearly a mistress. Sheng Amren trembled in anger, and glared at Secretary Dong for a long time without saying anything. In the end, she stomped away angrily in her high heels. Looking at Sheng Amren's back, Secretary Dong snorted coldly, turned around and said, If Sheng Amren comes again, just ignore her. President Ling basically won't come to the company except for meetings during this time. Even if she comes, she's very busy. The receptionist quickly nodded. Yes. Chapter 254. Jinjiang Park. Yi Huanyan was sitting on the bed reading a book for prenatal education when she heard the sound of the door turning. She looked up and saw the revolving door open. Ling Han was walking towards her in his gray striped pajamas. Her face stiffened, and she didn't know what to do. Tomorrow, I'll get someone to tear down this wall and restore the bedroom to its original state. She was stunned and didn't know how to respond. She was lifted up by the corner, and a gust of cold wind blew in. She shivered, and before she could react, the side of her body suddenly sank. Half of her body tilted slightly and fell into a cold embrace. The sudden warmth made her panic, and she didn't know how to respond. In her impression, Ling Han had never treated her so intimately and gently. Don't your eyes get tired? It's okay, she answered stiffly. Lie down, I'll read it to you. As soon as she finished speaking, the book for prenatal education in her hand was taken away. A clear voice came from above her head, and it sounded in the room word by word. It was like a radio host at midnight, dispelling the loneliness of the night. She gradually felt sleepy, and the voice in her ears seemed to be fading. She sank into the dream, but it also seemed that she was still in reality. She dreamed back to 10 years ago. She was wearing an oversized down jacket, and her face was red from the cold. She was standing under the persimmon tree in the old house, picking up a branch to poke at the snow. Hearing a voice behind her, she turned around and grinned. Brother Ling Han, come quickly, there's a hornet's nest on the tree. At that time, he didn't like to wear a dark suit all day, and he didn't always have a stiff expression on his face. At that time, Ling Han's smile was like a spring breeze, and he liked to tease all the girls in the old house. Just in time, I'll help you poke that hornet's nest. Yi Huanyan was slightly stunned. Why poke it? Ling Han crossed his arms and said teasingly. The 2 new lumps on your face are from hornets, right? I'll avenge you. At that time, Yi Huanyan was in her adolescence. She would have small pimples on her face every now and then. Although they weren't serious, girls still loved to look pretty. When Ling Han talked about them so openly, the servants who passed by all covered their mouths and snickered. She immediately lost all face. I'm not talking to you anymore. Later, in the dead of the night, the sound of a kitten could be heard on the windowsill. Pushing open the door, there was a basket of persimmon pancakes neatly stacked in front of the door. She couldn't help but smile. Suddenly the scene changed. She carried the basket and turned back to the room, only to see Ling Han standing by the bed in a suit. His cold eyes sized her up from head to toe. Yi Huanyan, it's just a basket of persimmon pancakes. Did I overestimate you? She was at a loss. Brother Ling Han, what are you talking about? Tell me, whose child is it? The child in her belly? Yi Huanyan froze. What child? When did I have a child? A slutty woman like you, Your ability to lie through your teeth is truly admirable. Take a look for yourself. She lowered her head. Her lower abdomen swelled up at a speed visible to the naked eye. Ah! She screamed. The basket in her hand fell to the ground, and the persimmon pancakes rolled all over the floor. What else do you have to say? He walked towards her with a sinister smile. Yi Huanyan held her waist, but she felt that her feet weighed 1,000 pounds. No matter how hard she tried, she couldn't move her feet. She let him strangle her neck, struggle and scream. Ah! She closed her eyes tightly, and a painful groan came out of her mouth. Her hands gripped the corner of the blanket tightly, and she was in great pain. Yin Yin! Yin Yin! She seemed to hear someone calling her name. The scene in front of her suddenly disappeared. She finally relaxed. Yin Yin, it's just a nightmare. In the dark night, Ling Han held her hand tightly. He felt the sweat in his palm. When he saw that her furrowed brows had finally relaxed, he slowly breathed a sigh of relief. He lifted the blanket, pulled it up to her neck, and then lay down next to her. The next morning, when Yi Huanyan woke up, there was no one beside her. She sat up in bed and stared blankly at the side of the bed. She felt sticky all over. She seemed to have had a nightmare last night, and now she still had a lingering fear. At this time, Ling Han should have left. She sat for a while, then lifted the blanket and got out of bed. She went to the bathroom to take a shower. After the shower, she felt much better. She changed into a set of clean home clothes and walked out of the bathroom with a towel drying her wet hair. After opening the bedroom door, she smelled the aroma of food. Lingling was busy at the dining table. She looked happy, but she didn't know what she was happy about. Yi Huanyan went downstairs. It was rare that she was in the mood to tease her. Did you hit the jackpot? Why are you so happy? Lingling turned around and smiled. If I hit the jackpot, I won't be a nanny anymore. Missy, you won't have anything to eat today. Yi Huanyan looked at the table full of dishes and frowned. It's just breakfast. Why did you make so much? I can't finish it. Lingling touched the back of her head in embarrassment. Because young master doesn't eat at home often. I don't know what he likes, so I made more today. We'll see what he eats later. In the future, I'll cook according to your and young master's preferences. Young master? He said he's coming back for breakfast? Yi Huanyan paused in the motion of drying her hair. It took at least half an hour to get from the company to Jinjiang Court. It was already 9 o'clock. He should have left long ago. Why would he come back for breakfast? Lingling was stunned. She asked in confusion. Young master is at home. You didn't know? At home? Yes, he's been in the study the whole time. Assistant Qiao came this morning with a lot of company documents. He said that young master has been working at home during this period of time, and told me to cook well. Yi Huanyan was a little dazed. She followed Lingling's gaze, and looked in the direction of the study on the second floor. Was he working at home? Young master must be afraid that you'll be bored at home alone. So he deliberately stayed at home to accompany you. You're very important to young master. Yi Huanyan envied Lingling's optimism. She used to have such a personality, but in the past year, she had experienced too many incidents where he suddenly turned hostile. She still had lingering fears. Once bitten, twice shy. She had been bitten several times. No matter how optimistic she was, she couldn't be optimistic. How long could these days last? She didn't dare to be sure. Just as she was thinking, she heard the sound of footsteps coming down the stairs. The footsteps were heavy. When she looked up, she saw that familiar face walking towards her. Her hair was draped over her shoulders. It was wet and dripping onto the floor. Ling Han's eyes flashed with displeasure. You came out without drying your hair. Do you want to catch a cold? Chapter 255. Under her surprised gaze, Ling Han pulled her to the sofa without any explanation. He took the hairdryer from Lingling, held her hair in his hand, and carefully dried it. She came back to her senses. I'll do it myself. Don't move. A cold voice sounded behind her. Yi Huanyan froze and didn't dare to move. The warm wind blew through her hair and across her cheeks. Her entire upper body was as warm as if she was in a steam room. Neither of them spoke. Only the sound of the wind in the living room could be heard. It's almost done. Ling Han put down the hairdryer. Yi Huanyan touched the warm top of her head and turned around. She was slightly stunned when she saw him in a suit that seemed to be going out. Are you going out? Something came up at the company. After saying this, he paused in the middle of buttoning his shirt and explained, I'll be back for lunch before 11. Yi Huanyan had just thought that Lingling had made a table of breakfast. If he left like this, the table of food would be wasted. She didn't mean to ask when he would be back. But when he explained, she suddenly felt warm in her heart. She looked at him with a much gentler gaze. During this period of time, he had been very patient with her. And there didn't seem to be any more messy news in the newspapers. Although Sheng Engran still showed off their love in front of reporters, he never appeared again. After Ling Han left, Yi Huanyan sat at the table and ate breakfast. After thinking for a long time, she finally took out her cell phone and called Gu Xinian. Have you thought about it? Gu Xinian's voice came from the phone. It was steady and powerful, giving people an inexplicable sense of security. Yi Huanyan answered, Yes. When will you go back with me? After the baby is born or now? I've thought about it. I want to stay with him. There was a long silence on the phone. Yi Huanyan thought that Gu Xinian was angry, so she quickly explained, I just feel that the child can't leave his father. And he's very good to me now, really good. What about home? Gu Xinian's tone was obviously displeased. Mom and Dad are waiting for you. I'll go back. If there's a chance, I'll tell Ling Han about my background. When the time comes, I'll go back with him, okay? Brother. Yi Huanyan took a deep breath and said slowly, Didn't you say that I can do whatever I want? After you told me that I wasn't Jiang Milan's daughter, I actually felt much more relaxed. I didn't have any qualms about staying by his side anymore. This is my choice. Gu Xinian was helpless when he heard her call him brother. After a long while he said in a deep voice, Then I'll give him another chance. This meaningful tone made Yi Huanyan slightly stunned. A trace of doubt flashed in her heart, but it was quickly washed away by the joy of Gu Xinian agreeing to her. She quickly said, Thank you, brother. On the other hand, Gu Xinian hung up the phone and looked back at his assistant. The acquisition case against Pleasure is temporarily suspended. Let the acquisition team disband and return to their positions. The assistant's face stiffened and he said in disbelief, Suspended? We've already invested a lot of manpower and financial resources. And we've already grasped the various loopholes in Pleasure. As long as we make a move, they won't be able to fight back. He might be able to fight back. You've underestimated Ling Han. The assistant frowned and said unwillingly, Is it because young master thinks that there's something wrong with our acquisition case? We can still improve it. The team is made up of Wall Street elites. Since we took over this case 3 months ago, we've been confident of winning. Gu Xinian waved his hand and said calmly, It has nothing to do with this. No matter how powerful Ling Han is, as long as we deal with him carefully, it's not impossible to take over Pleasure. Then why? Thinking of that possibility, the assistant's frown deepened. Is it because of Miss? Gu Xinian looked up at him. Keep a close eye on Ling Han. If anything happens, tell me immediately. Whether or not the acquisition case will be carried out depends on his attitude towards Yin Yen. No one can bully a member of the Gu family. The assistant nodded quickly. After the phone call, Yi Huanyan was in a good mood. Not only did she eat a lot for breakfast, but she also helped Lingling in the kitchen for lunch. If Lingling hadn't been afraid that she would be tired, she would have cooked a few dishes herself. In the end, she only finished a cold dish. She walked out of the kitchen with the dish somewhat unwillingly and walked towards the dining table. At this time, a tall figure in the living room walked towards her aggressively. Yi Huanyan only stared at the cold dish in her hand. When the person came closer, she looked up in panic, but it was too late. With a bang, a shadow covered the top of her head and fell hard on her cheek. Yi Huanyan couldn't dodge in time. She staggered and her hand trembled. Immediately, the cold dish in her hand fell to the ground with a loud crack. Lingling heard the sound and immediately heard a woman's sharp reprimand. Yi Huanyan, you bitch. Sheng Amren's face was livid. She stared at Yi Huanyan arrogantly and slapped her again. Missy! Lingling cried out in alarm. However, the expected slap didn't come. Yi Huanyan grabbed Sheng Amren's arm with one hand. Her face was flushed red, and there was a handprint on her left cheek. Sheng Amren, are you crazy? This is my house. Who let you in? Lingling, who was behind her, suddenly remembered that she opened the door for ventilation and forgot to close it, which allowed Sheng Amren to break in. She immediately felt guilty. However, Sheng Amren glared at her fiercely without the slightest bit of guilt for hitting someone. She couldn't get through to Ling Han, and Xiaomu was busy with something recently. He didn't seem to have any intention of helping her. She went to find pleasure. Secretary Dong said he was working from home, so she went directly to Jinjiang Court. On the way there, she brushed past Ling Han's car. And Yi Huanyan really lived here. What methods did you use to keep Ling Han by your side these days? Don't think I don't know. Isn't it just a child of unknown origin? You stole my man. I don't even want to dirty my hands by hitting you. Yi Huanyan was pregnant and didn't have much strength. It was already very strenuous for her to hold Sheng Amren's wrist. When she heard this, she flared up and flung Sheng Amren's arm away. She coldly said, Ling Han never admitted that you were his girlfriend. Sheng Amren's expression darkened when her sore spot was poked. She gritted her teeth and pressed. Then does he admit that you're his girlfriend? Don't forget, he didn't intend to testify for you in court. He was the one who indirectly sent you to prison. Even if he's living with you now, it's hard to say that he'll come to live with me after he's bored. Are you willing to share a man with someone else? These were the sore spots in Yi Huanyan's heart. The two of them knew the pain in each other's heart too well, so they were merciless in their words. I don't care. Yi Huanyan made up her mind. She was a person who had been trained in the workplace. She knew that when others were tough, she had to be tougher than them. She simply stared at Sheng Amren with a cold face. You saw it too. I'm pregnant. I only want the child in my belly to be born safely. So what if you're outside? Even if there are other people, I don't care. Chapter 256. Yi Huanyan's bulging lower abdomen was a thorn in Sheng Amren's eyes. She knew that if this thorn was not pulled out, she would not be able to sleep and eat in peace, and would never be able to turn over. Aren't you afraid that when I have children in the future, not only men, but even the property of the Ling family will be divided between my children and me? How can you bear such humiliation? Don't forget that I still live in Fujing Court. Don't you know very well what that place means to you and Ling Han? Hearing this, Yi Huanyan's eyes showed a trace of pain. She protected her lower abdomen and barely stood still. Seeing that the situation was not right, Lingling hurriedly stepped forward and stood between the two people, protecting Yi Huanyan behind her. Miss Sheng, the young master and Miss Yi are married. If you do this again, I will call the police. Married? Sheng Amren's face sank to the extreme. What did you say? Lingling's words made Yi Huanyan finally find a trace of confidence. She clenched her fingers and took a deep breath. Yes, Ling Han and I are married. No matter from a legal or moral point of view, I have no place for you to criticize me. Only you are the mistress. Sheng Amren was very unwilling to leave, but Lingling threatened to call the police, so she had to leave. Lingling didn't breathe a sigh of relief until the car in the yard left. This Sheng Amren is so self-righteous when she is the mistress. It's really too much. When the young master comes back, I must tell him about it. No need. Yi Huanyan frowned. Don't say it. I don't want to mention her again. Especially in this place. Whether Ling Han had drawn a clear line with Sheng Amren or not, she chose to close her eyes and shut her ears, as if she did not exist. Today, no one came to provoke her. To say that Sheng Amren was the mistress was only on the premise that she had a marriage certificate. Before, she was the girlfriend of Ling Han in everyone's eyes. Although Ling Han did not admit it, his specious attitude was almost a tacit admission. Then, when she was by Ling Han's side at that time, was she considered a mistress? Ling Han was willing to spend time with her now, because he believed that the child in her stomach was his. What was there for her to be proud of? Why did she have to add insult to injury? Lingling was a little annoyed when she saw that Lin Yiqian was not fighting for the food. She went back to the kitchen angrily, stirring the spoons and chopsticks. On the viaduct of Jinjiangshan Villa District, A red sports car was running fast. The fingers holding the steering wheel almost bled, and Sheng Amren's delicate face was full of unwillingness. He was actually married. They were actually married? It was only when the car got off the overpass and entered the main city that she slowly calmed down her breathing. Holding a recording pen in one hand, she pondered for a while before a sinister look appeared in her eyes. She immediately put on her Bluetooth earpiece and dialed a number. Sister Sue, can you still contact the voice actor who was chased out of the recording studio by the director for the TV series? A puzzled voice came from the other end of the phone. That girl who kept crying and couldn't adjust her emotions for the recording and was chased out by the director? Yes, that's her. She should be able to. I heard that she's a student at the Academy of Arts, majoring in voice acting. It seemed that something big happened at home that day, so she lost control of her emotions. Do you want her to dub for you? Almost. Bring her to see me as soon as possible. Hanging up the phone, Sheng Amren held the steering wheel firmly, her eyes full of viciousness. Since it was a matter of the winner, don't blame her for playing dirty tricks behind her back. Jinjianjuan. At 11 o'clock in the afternoon, Ling Han arrived home on time. While preparing the plates, Lingling peeked at Yi Huanyan and saw that she was really as if nothing had happened. She didn't want to mention to Ling Han that Sheng Anren came to find trouble today. Lingling could only hold back her complaints and sighed helplessly. In the evening, Ling Han was working in the study. Yi Huanyan was about to go to bed first, but she heard a knock on the door. She was slightly stunned. Come in. Lingling smiled and entered the room with supper. Yi Huanyan pulled the quilt and sat up. Lingling, why did you suddenly make supper? I'm going to bed. It's not for you. Lingling had a meaningful look on her face. Miss Yi, send these to the young master. Yi Huanyan frowned and thought for a moment. She knew what Lingling was thinking. Just send it over. How can it be the same? Lingling held her hand. Miss Yi, I really can't stand Sheng Amren's arrogant look when he came here today. You have to seize the opportunity. The young master is all about you now. Although it's because of the child, who doesn't like to have a considerate person around them. It's really not good for you to always be so cold to him. Yi Huanyan's frown deepened. She didn't want to be cold to him. She didn't treat him like this before. It seemed that she had given too much enthusiasm during that time. Now she wanted to find some of the energy she used to spend on him, but she couldn't find it. Miss Yi, just listen to me. Lingling put a vest on Yi Huanyan and pulled her up. She forced the supper tray into her hands and dragged her to the door of the study. Lingling knocked on the door and quickly hid aside. Come in. Ling Han's voice came from behind the door, sounding a little tired and dull. Yi Huanyan's heart skipped a beat. She glanced at Lingling hesitantly. Lingling kept winking at her and waving her hand to signal her to come in. She had no choice but to open the door and go in. Ling Han was stunned when he saw Yi Huanyan. You're still awake. Yi Huanyan took a deep breath and walked to the coffee table with the tray. Yes, Lingling made supper. You didn't eat much at night. Eat some. A hint of warmth appeared in Ling Han's eyes. He glanced at the figure at the door from the corner of his eyes and understood what had happened. He put down his pen and got up to walk to the coffee table. The supper was fried spring rolls and a bowl of porridge. It was salty and delicious. Yi Huanyan sat to the side and watched him eat quietly. She looked calm but distant. Lingling asked you to come, right? Ling Han didn't ask until he finished eating and put down the bowl. Yi Huanyan was tidying up the tray. She was slightly stunned when she heard this. Then she nodded. Yes. She didn't know why, but she remembered that Lingling said she was cold, so she added, Lingling always does things that she likes. If you think it's annoying, I'll tell her she doesn't have to do it anymore. A trace of disappointment flashed across Ling Han's heart when he saw her nonchalant attitude. He couldn't help but think of what she said at the hospital that day. She didn't hate him. It was only because of the child. So you don't want to do this? Yi Huanyan raised her eyes to look at him. When their eyes met, her hand that was holding the porcelain bowl paused slightly. Chapter 257. A hint of disappointment appeared in Ling Han's eyes. Yi Huanyan's heart tightened at the disappointment, and she cautiously said, I just thought you would be tired of seeing me. Ling Han was stunned for a moment, and his heart was filled with mixed feelings. Since when did he make Yi Huanyan feel that even appearing in front of him was a form of annoyance? Yi Huanyan silently packed up her things and carried the tray to the door of the study. From beginning to end, she did not hear a word of explanation from Ling Han. At the entrance of a private recording studio in Lanjiang City, a low-key black car was parked outside the door. A slim woman in the car was fully armed, wearing a low-key black casual outfit, sunglasses, and a mask. After the car stopped, she said, Did you remember what you were going to say? The girl beside her was only 18 or 19 years old, and she nodded repeatedly. Yes. Go. After saying this, the girl hurriedly got out of the car, walked to the back door and knocked. A familiar figure appeared at the door. After looking around and confirming that there was no one around, he let the girl in. Before closing the door, he gave a look in the direction of the black car. Not long after, the black car slowly drove away. The next day, after Ling Han accompanied Yi Huanyan to breakfast, he saw Qiao Mu waiting at the door. Director Ling, seeing Qiao Mu, a puzzled expression flashed across Ling Han's face. He raised his wrist and glanced at it. Didn't you say you were leaving at 10? Why are you here now? He was going on a business trip to Hujiang today, and he did not know if he could make it back in time at night. Qiao Mu put a craft paper bag on the dining table and respectfully said, Director Ling, this is the internal information of the company's artists. The paper files and the USB flash drive are all here. You said on the phone last night that you would make a copy and send it here. I was afraid of being late, so I sent it in advance and picked you up to the company. Qiao Mu did indeed do things in an orderly and flawless manner. Before leaving, Ling Han handed the file to Yi Huanyan and said softly, I have to go. Help me put this in the study. Yi Huanyan nodded with a cautious expression. The private information of the artists, including the dirt that many companies bought from the media, must not be exposed. If this information was leaked, it was likely that more than half of Pleasure's artists would be implicated. After Ling Han left, Yi Huanyan sent the files to his study. A vibration in her pocket made her put down the files temporarily. It was a call from Gu Xinian. She pressed the answer button and walked out of the study while answering the phone. She walked towards the balcony of the bedroom. She didn't want to reveal her identity for the time being, so she avoided Lingling when she called Gu Xinian. On the balcony, Yi Huanyan looked around. After making sure that no one was around, she lowered her voice and said, Brother, what's the matter? On the other end of the phone, Gu Xinian's voice seemed to carry a bit of worry. Yan Yan, I have to go back to America to take care of some matters in the next 2 days. I'm worried about you staying by Ling Han's side alone. Do you want to leave with me in advance? Hearing that Gu Xinian was leaving, Yi Huanyan was slightly taken aback, and her heart suddenly tightened. You're leaving? When? Did something happen at home? My flight is tomorrow. Hearing Yi Huanyan ask about his family, Gu Xinian hesitated for a few seconds. Nothing big happened at home. It's my personal matter, so I probably need to take care of it for a while before I can come back. Yi Huanyan let out a sigh of relief and smiled. Then don't worry and go back. I've been fine recently. If you want me to go back now, it'll be too rushed. I haven't prepared anything. Let's talk about it after I give birth. I still want to tell Ling Han about this. On the other end of the phone, Gu Xinian was also hesitant. His original intention was not to let Yi Huanyan leave his sight, but something had happened at home. Even if he brought her back, he was afraid that he wouldn't be able to take care of her in the future. She was unfamiliar with the people in America, and it was inevitable that something would happen. It wasn't necessarily safer than staying here. However, if she stayed in China, it wasn't impossible to leave her in the care of his subordinates. After hesitating for a long time, he finally made up his mind. All right, since that's the case, be careful when you're alone in China. I'll try to come back within a month. During this time, if you need anything, call Gulu. I'll send you his phone number in a moment. Gulu. Yi Huanyan was slightly taken aback. She seemed to have heard this name somewhere before. Gu Xinian seemed to know what she was thinking. He explained. You've seen him before. He's always by my side. He'll stay in China. No matter what happens, contact him immediately. He'll help you settle it. Yi Huanyan responded in a daze. Gulu. Had she heard Gu Xinian mention this person's name before? She didn't recall hearing him mention it. And that assistant didn't seem to have introduced himself either. She seemed to have heard this name somewhere before. After hanging up the phone, the name Gulu kept circling in Yi Huanyan's mind. Later, when Ling Ling called her for lunch, she came back to her senses and quickly responded. When she passed by the door of the study, she saw that the door was open. Remembering that the file was still inside, she quickly locked it and put the matter of Gulu behind her. At night, when she came out of the bathroom after taking a shower, Ling Ling came in with a large stack of washed and dried clothes. Seeing that she was absent-minded, she smiled and said, Miss Yi, are you thinking about when young master will come back? Hearing her teasing, Yi Huanyan blushed. What are you talking about? Ling Ling put the clothes into the closet. Out of the corner of her eye, she caught a glimpse of a gray and blue striped uniform in the corner of the closet. When she saw the number on the chest, Ling Ling suddenly frowned. Miss Yi, why are you still keeping this uniform? Throw it away. It's bad luck. Yi Huanyan looked in Ling Ling's direction and saw that she was holding the prison uniform in her hand. She frowned slightly. She couldn't remember when she threw this uniform in the closet. I'll put it away first. I don't want you to feel uncomfortable looking at it, and throw it far away when you go out tomorrow. As she spoke, Ling Ling rolled up the uniform in her arms and got ready to take it out of the bedroom. Looking at the uniform, Yi Huanyan thought of the time in prison. Although the conditions were tough, after everyone opened up their hearts, they actually had a good time. Looking at the uniform, it was as if a string was suddenly connected in her mind. Ling Ling, wait a minute. She suddenly spoke. Ling Ling was shocked. She stood at the door and came back to her senses. What's wrong? Miss Yi? Yi Huanyan stood up and walked over to her with her wet hair. Give me the uniform first. Ling Ling unfolded the uniform in confusion. What's wrong? After rummaging through it, Yi Huanyan found the note that Fu Yingxiang gave her before she left Lanjiang City Women's Prison. The handwriting on it was a little blurred, but she could still make out the numbers. After the string of numbers there were 2 words. Gulu. Chapter 258. Ling Ling was sent out of the bedroom, still holding the bundle of clothes in her hands. She stood at the door for a while, then went downstairs in a daze. Should she throw the clothes away or not? In the bedroom, Yi Huanyan held the piece of paper and quickly walked to the bedside to pick up her phone. She compared the text message from Gu Xinian and looked at the numbers one by one. The name was exactly the same as the number on the piece of paper that was faintly discernible. Gulu, Fu Yingxiang's brother? Yi Huanyan suddenly felt a little confused. Didn't Fu Yingxiang say that her brother was a local from Lanjiang City? Gulu had clearly just returned to the country with Gu Xinian not long ago, and his mannerisms didn't seem like he was from a rural area. Maybe there were some numbers on the phone number that she couldn't see clearly? After hesitating for a while, she made up her mind and dialed the number on the piece of paper. The call went through immediately, and the voice of the assistant from the other day came from the other end. Obviously, he had saved her number, and his tone was very calm. Miss, what's the matter? Yi Huanyan hesitated for a few seconds. Nothing. My brother just sent your number to my phone. I'll see if I can get through. The person on the other end of the line was silent, as if he was speechless. Yi Huanyan was embarrassed and didn't know what to say. After a while, a voice came from the phone. Miss, are you sure you can get through now? There won't be any mistakes 24/7. Don't worry, miss. Yi Huanyan quickly replied. Okay, I'm not worried. After saying this, she didn't know what to say. Gulu was a little confused. Miss, is there anything else? Yi Huanyan gritted her teeth and said hesitantly. When I was in the women's prison, a friend asked me to pass a message to her brother. I forgot, but now I suddenly remember. Can I ask you to help me find this person? This should be a compromise. If this Gulu wasn't the Gulu she knew, Then it wouldn't be too awkward. Miss, please speak. Gulu's voice was very respectful. My friend's name is Fuingxiang. She said that she changed her surname after she got married with her mother. She asked me to find her brother's name, Gulu. She gave me his phone number, but it was dirty, so I couldn't see the numbers clearly. There was silence on the other end of the phone, and there was no response for a long time. Hello. Yi Huanyan called out in confusion. I'm here, Mississippi. Gulu's voice sounded again. It's like looking for a needle in a haystack. How about this? I'll try my best to look for him. I'll inform you when I find him, okay? Yi Huanyan was a little suspicious. I heard my brother say that you're also called Gulu? The person on the other end laughed. There are many people with the same name, but I was a little surprised when I heard Miss say Gulu. But I'm the only child in the family, and I don't have a younger sister. Also, I don't know what Miss said about Gulu. And what is this Fuingxiang? Miss, please send all the information you know to my phone first. Yi Huanyan let out a sigh of relief. She felt that she was quick-witted. Luckily, she didn't ask him directly as Fuingxiang's brother. Okay, wait a moment. I'll send the information on that piece of paper to you. After hanging up the phone, Yi Huanyan was busy taking photos and sending messages. On the other end of the phone, after hanging up, Gulu's eyes were filled with uncontrollable excitement. He hurriedly turned around and walked out of the door, heading towards Gu Xingyan's room in the hotel. Young master, there's news about Fuingxiang. The silver-haired man on the sofa raised his head, and there was a trace of relief in his eyes. What happened? Gulu couldn't hide his excitement. Fuingxiang is actually in prison. The gambling king's people hid her in prison. This news was actually brought out by Miss Yin Yan. Gulu told Gu Xingyan everything that Yi Huanyan had said over the phone. The silver-haired man on the sofa immediately frowned. Does Yin Yan know the inside story of this matter? Gulu hurriedly said. I didn't dare to tell Mississippi. I only said that I would help her find this person called Gulu. That's good. Don't let Yin Yan get involved in this matter. How about this? You take some people and get Fuingxiang out of prison as soon as possible. You'll be on the same flight as me tomorrow, leaving Lanjiang directly. Yes, I'll do it as soon as possible. Late at night, not long after Yi Huanyan went to bed, she heard the sound of a car stopping downstairs. Not long after, a ray of light shone into the dark room, but it quickly disappeared. The deliberately low sound of footsteps entered her ears, and her body collapsed in his direction as the person climbed onto the bed. A burst of coldness hit her, and she shivered from the cold. Did I wake you up? A low voice came from her cheek, with a hint of warmth. Why are you so cold? Yi Huanyan shivered. Ling Han frowned. Are you cold? Suddenly he remembered what Lingling said. Yi Huanyan was very afraid of the cold these days, and he understood a little in his heart. He pretended to get up and leave. I'll go get a new blanket. A warm force came from the crook of his arm, and he was pulled back. Ling Han was stunned for a moment, and he returned to his senses and looked at her. It's okay, I'll be fine in a while. Yi Huanyan still looked sleepy, but her hand holding onto his sleeve was very persistent. Her cheek was pressed against the back of his hand, and she said hesitantly, just sleep like this. She was curled up in the blanket like a little kitten. Ling Han's heart suddenly softened a little, and he laid down as well. He pulled her into his arms, and couldn't help but kiss her forehead, and kissed the tip of her small nose. When he kissed her lips, he suddenly remembered what the doctor said, and he restrained himself from touching her again. Yi Huanyan originally closed her eyes and allowed him to do whatever he wanted, but she felt that his kiss stopped on her lips and didn't go any deeper. Then he simply hugged her and lay down to sleep, with no intention of going any further. She was suddenly stunned, and she felt a little confused and a little disappointed. In bed, she had never seen him restrain himself, and he always did whatever he wanted. Was it really like what Lingling said? She was too cold to him, and as time passed, even if they had feelings for each other, they would drift apart. What's wrong? She gritted her teeth and asked hesitantly. The man beside her was stunned for a moment, and his voice was hoarse. The doctor said that your body isn't suitable for. Before he finished speaking, Yi Huanyan's sleepy eyes gradually dispersed the fog, and they became bright like a little animal in the night. She bit her lips and looked up at him. Her gaze was like water, and her hands reached into the place she was very familiar with. Ling Han's face suddenly tensed, and the hand that was originally on his lower abdomen grabbed her wrist, and his voice was hoarse and difficult to endure. Yen Yen. Yi Huanyan allowed him to grab her wrist, and only pressed her cheek against his chest and said softly, "The doctor only said that I can't, but he didn't say that you can't." Hearing this, Ling Han's face immediately became embarrassed. He had always been the one to take the initiative in bed, and now that he heard Yi Huanyan say this in his ear, it was as if thousands of ants were crawling around in his heart, and it was extremely numb. Chapter 259. Ling Han did not have time to stop her. Or rather, he did not want to stop her at all from the bottom of his heart. He watched in disbelief as she crawled under the blankets, and felt her groping. Her warm fingers brushed against his skin, and that shuddering feeling made him feel refreshed. She was not very skilled, but it made him happier than any other time. After sweating profusely, he felt refreshed as if he had vented all the depression he had been suppressing for the past few days. His face showed that he had not had enough, and his heart was restless. She peeked out from under the blankets with a flushed face, and leaned against his chest, whispering, "Isn't this very good?" Ling Han lowered his head, and planted a long kiss on her cheek. He bit her lips, and was about to deepen his kiss when he saw that she had no reaction. He took a closer look, and saw that she was already exhausted. She was leaning in his arms, and he could hear the sound of her even breathing. He could only give up with a wry smile. Her sleeping face was too gentle and quiet, giving him the illusion that it was already a peaceful time. People were always greedy. When there was spiritual resonance, they demanded physical intercourse. When there was physical pleasure, they could not forget the compatibility of their souls. On the bedside table, the note that he did not have time to put away fell into Ling Han's eyes. Gu Lu, one of Gu Xingyan's people. Fujin Park Villa. After Qiao Mu sent Ling Han back to Jinjiang Park, he hurried over. When he entered the house, it was pitch black, and he could only smell the pungent smell of alcohol. He frowned and followed his memory to turn on the light in the living room. With a bang, the light turned on, and he saw a mess on the floor. Wine bottles were scattered all over the floor, and a slender woman was lying drunk on the plush carpet in front of the sofa. It was Sheng Anren. Qiao Mu frowned and hurriedly walked forward. "Anren!" Sheng Anren was pulled into Qiao Mu's arms, and his urgent shouts finally made her slowly open her eyes. She hooked her arms around his neck and said intimately, "You're here?" Her eyes were like silk, and her gaze was like water. It was so gentle that it made people want to rub her into their bodies. Qiao Mu's expression stiffened, and her Adam's apple bobbed. In the end, she gritted her teeth and suppressed the desire in her heart. "Why did you drink so much? What's wrong?" Hearing this, a layer of mist suddenly appeared in her eyes, and she said with tears in her eyes, "I called you so many times, but you didn't answer me. I thought you didn't want me anymore." Qiao Mu's brows knitted even tighter, and displeasure surfaced in her eyes. "Aren't you looking for me because you want to find him? I've already told you what he wants by not picking up your call." However, the arm around her neck tightened. She cried, "I'm calling you. I'm looking for you. What does it have to do with him? You don't want to care about me anymore, do you? Even you don't want to care about me anymore, right?" That weeping beauty made one's heart ache. Qiao Mu sighed, seemingly not believing her words. "Stop fooling around. I'll send you back to your room to rest." After saying this, she did not care whether Sheng Anren was willing or not. She picked her up bridal style, and headed for the master bedroom on the second floor. Sheng Anren, on the other hand, settled down. She nestled in his arms, and did not say anything. She merely sobbed softly the entire way, sticking close to his chest. His heavy breathing fell into her ears, and every detail of his rolling Adam's apple fell into her eyes. A trace of craftiness flashed through that pair of watery phoenix eyes. Qiao Mu placed her on the bed, but she did not expect that just as she put her down, the arm around her neck would suddenly pull her in front of him. His entire body would then press down on her soft body, and she could not avoid it even if she wanted to. How could Xiaomu not be aware of her little trick? Thus, her tone immediately became heavier. Amren, let go. Tears hung from the corners of Sheng Amren's eyes, and her slender arms hung around his neck, unwilling to let go. Xiaomu, don't go. Stay with me, okay? Xiaomu's gaze seemed to tremble as he gazed at that face that he yearned for day and night. In the end, he was unable to restrain himself. The lingering and domineering kiss practically merged them into one, and her taking the initiative to cater to him caused his body and mind to obtain unprecedented satisfaction. Outside the window, the shadows of the trees danced. In the wee hours of the morning, the night of pleasure finally returned to silence. Her snow-white arms groped for the residual warmth on the bedsheets as she absent-mindedly stared at the creases on the bedsheets. She only returned to her senses when she heard the sound of water in the bathroom abruptly stop, and she promptly put on a burgundy nightgown. Before long, Xiaomu walked out of the bathroom while drying her hair. Just as she reached the bathroom door, her expression suddenly tensed, and she said in embarrassment, "You're awake." Sheng Amren took a deep breath and pretended to be relaxed as she said with a smile, "Morning. Last night I drank too much." Sheng Amren interrupted him. "Thank you." A trace of disappointment flashed through Xiaomu's eyes. He wanted to say something, but when he saw her determined expression, he could not utter a single word. "You've always taken care of me, and I'm very grateful to you. Treat what happened last night as my thanks to you. As for Ling Han, I won't say anything." Xiaomu's expression slightly stiffened, and something seemed to be stuck in his throat. He seemed to have anticipated what Sheng Amren was going to say next. But when he heard her speak, his heart still chilled bit by bit. Sheng Amren looked at him with a burning gaze. "I only need you to do me a favor, and I can pretend that nothing happened last night. You're still Ling Han's most loyal assistant, and you have nothing to do with his woman." Xiaomu's gaze deepened as he looked at Sheng Amren for a long time. "Tell me, what do you want?" "I want you to find a way to leak the information of Pleasure's artists." As soon as he finished speaking, he sucked in a cold breath. "Are you crazy? Do you know how much damage this will cause to Pleasure?" "I know." Sheng Amren's gaze was resolute. "The greater the damage, the greater Ling Han's anger will be, and the more unlucky the person who leaked the information will be." Seeing Xiaomu's disbelief, she sneered. "Don't worry, Ling Han definitely won't suspect you. The Pleasure's artist's information is all in the archives, and it can only be opened with a secret key. It also takes some effort to export it. As far as I know, the secret key has always been kept by the people in the secretary's office, and it has nothing to do with your assistant team. Therefore, once something happened, only Secretary Dong, Yi Huanyan, and Ji Xiaoya, who used to work in the secretary's office, would be suspected. After Ji Xiaoya left, Yi Huanyan applied to change the secret key once to avoid suspicion. However, after Yi Huanyan left, Secretary Dong was not familiar with the secretary's office's business and kept using the original secret key. Therefore, when something happened, only Secretary Dong and Yi Huanyan would be suspected. Other than this, how much do you know? Xiaomu's face darkened. Only now did he realize that he really knew too little about Sheng Amren. He originally thought he could avoid the temptation, but he still stepped into it. "I also know that yesterday morning, you went to Secretary Dong to copy the artist's information and sent it to Jinjiang Court. That was why she had this idea and cut off all means of retreat. Aren't you afraid that I'll directly resign to avoid trouble?" Xiaomu's expression was gloomy, and his gaze toward Sheng Amren was very unfriendly. However, Sheng Amren seemed to have grasped his thoughts and curled her lips. "You won't." Chapter 260. By the time Yi Huanyan woke up, it was already noon. The curtains in the room were still tightly drawn, and there was no one around. She was stunned. When she sat up, she was still in a daze. She heard some movement next door, so she ran over barefooted. From the door, she saw Ling Han sitting in front of the computer in the study. She let out a sigh of relief. Just as she was about to leave quietly, she stumbled and slammed the door shut. She couldn't avoid the sound of the door closing. While she was shrinking back, Ling Han had already opened the door and was standing in front of her. He looked a little serious with his brows furrowed. Yi Huanyan pursed her lips and looked nervous. I didn't mean to peek. I just wanted to see if you were still at home. Ling Han sized her up from head to toe. When his gaze landed on that pair of small feet that were as white as jade, it was tainted with a bit of coldness. Without any explanation, he put his arm around her shoulders and carried her horizontally. She cried out in surprise, but was afraid to wake Ling Ling, so she quickly covered her mouth. She deliberately lowered her voice and asked, "What are you doing?" Ling Han ignored her cries and took her into the bedroom and put her on the sofa. "What do you think I'm doing? The doctor said I'm not fit to." Before she could finish her sentence, Ling Han came over with a pair of home slippers. He squatted down and pinched one of her feet. He didn't forget to look up and tease her. Not fit to what? These 4 words sounded extremely ambiguous when they came out of his mouth. Yi Huanyan's face immediately turned crimson at the thought of the impulsive things she had done last night when she was in a daze. She bit her lip and stared at him shyly and angrily. She said angrily, "Nothing." Seeing her fly into a rage out of humiliation, Ling Han immediately laughed heartily. At the door of the bedroom, a figure flashed by. It was Ling Ling, who pursed her lips and snickered. She consciously retreated. She originally came to see if Yi Huanyan had woken up, but she did not expect to see such a scene. In her impression, since she had been working here as a nanny, she had never seen the young master laugh so heartily. After that, the villa in Jinjianjuan gradually became more affectionate. Ling Han worked from home, but he would still take time out to go out with Yi Huanyan. Sometimes, he would go to the mall to buy some things for the children. Sometimes he would buy some furniture and accessories that he liked. He would not hesitate to buy them and send them home to decorate the house. In less than a month, the originally quiet house had become like a home. That afternoon, when Yi Huanyan woke up from her afternoon nap, Ling Han was not at home as usual. She asked Ling Ling, but Ling Ling said she did not know either. She was wondering, "Why didn't you tell me you were going out? Are you coming back for dinner?" Ling Ling was peeling garlic at the entrance of the kitchen. Hearing this, she asked in confusion, "Miss Yi, why don't you call young master and ask?" Yi Huanyan was stunned for a few seconds. If Ling Ling hadn't asked, she wouldn't have remembered the last time she called Ling Han. It seemed that since she lost the court case, all the communication between her and Ling Han had become face-to-face, and the phone communication between them had never happened. She didn't feel anything wrong after such a long time. Thinking of this, her eyes suddenly overflowed with a warm smile. For so long, Ling Han had been accompanying her. He would tell her where he was going. She had never urged him on anything, so she didn't use her cell phone. In the Ling family villa in Fujin Garden, the woman's voice was filled with disbelief. "You said you want to take back this house?" On the sofa, the man sat upright and still, his face indifferent. "It's not taking it back, it's an exchange." His eyes glanced at the big red real estate certificate, and then fell on Sheng Anren. "This house, the real estate certificate doesn't have your name. Even if you live here, this house is not yours. I naturally won't regret what I promised you. This is prepared for you. The layout is similar to this one." Sheng Anren bit her lip, as if she didn't believe that Ling Han would be so cold and heartless. "Why? I live here well, and our relationship is also good. Why did you suddenly treat me like this? What did I do wrong?" Ling Han frowned. He didn't know why, but when he heard the words "our relationship," he felt that it was particularly jarring. He suddenly felt a bit of disgust towards the past, when he had just played around with her. "You didn't do anything wrong. This house belongs to my parents. It's not suitable for you to live in. As for our relationship..." His gaze was a little heavy, with a hint of warning. "That's it." Sheng Anren clenched her fingers and repeatedly ground his stingy words in her heart. "That's it. Ling Han, who do you think I am? Do you think I can come and go at your beck and call? Aren't you being too heartless? I didn't even ask for any status from you." This was her complaint, as well as her point of injustice. However, his response was very cold, without the slightest reluctance. as if he was only dealing with a case related to the pros and cons of the company's development. Nothing happened between you and me in the first place. What I stopped was just a mutually beneficial publicity stunt. It was just a publicity stunt. It brought her, as an artist of the company, a topic of discussion, and also brought profits to the company. Why not? I'm done. Find a time to ask Xiao Mu to help you move. After saying this, he got up without any hesitation. Sheng Amren gritted his teeth, and his eyes were full of anger. He was so worthless in his eyes. Even if no one lived in this house at all, he had to keep it as a pure land in his heart, didn't he? Yi Huanyan was so precious in his eyes that she had to lower herself and let him throw her away so casually. Ling Han, you did all this because of Yi Huanyan, right? Ling Han turned around. Yes. He did not plan to hide it from anyone, especially Sheng Anren. What kind of person is she in your heart? Sheng Amren curled her lips into a mocking smile. When I saw how you treated her before, I thought you had some deep enmity with her. How could you two still be together? A layer of displeasure surfaced in Ling Han's eyes. This is between me and her. In other words, no one had the right to interfere. The sarcasm on Sheng Amren's face gradually turned into deep-rooted jealousy and hatred. Yes, it's not up to others to interfere in the affairs between you and her. I can see that you're treating me like this now. No matter how you tormented me in the past, now you've changed your mind to her. You want to live a good life with her. As for me, I'm just like those miscellaneous flowers and weeds in the past. You don't even want her to do it, and come to clean me up personally. But do you really believe that there is such a thing as repaying evil with good in this world? Can she really let go of everything you did to her? Even if she really loved you before, do you think she will stay by your side just because of love like before? Chapter 261. Enough. Ling Han's cold eyes swept over Sheng Amren's face and scolded her without any mercy. He didn't want to say anything more, and turned to walk toward the door. Han, don't you want to hear her real thoughts? Ling Han's figure stood at the entrance of the living room. At first, he only regarded Sheng Amren's words as nonsense, but after hearing a familiar voice he stopped. Are you crazy? This is my home. Yi Huanyan's voice was filled with disbelief. In the chaos, there was also Ling Ling's exclamation. Ling Han slowly turned around and stared at the recording pen in Sheng Amren's hand with a frown. There was a 3 to 4 meters of living room carpet between them. A conversation from a month ago slowly played out from the recording pen. Do you think you can keep Ling Han's heart if you are pregnant? Yi Huanyan, you are delusional. Miss Sheng, our Miss Yi has already married the young master. How dare you come here? What? Married? That's right, Ling Han and I are already married. Sheng Anren, if I know what's good for me, I will turn a blind eye and let you live in that house with half of my assets. If you don't know what's good for you, you won't get anything. You really don't mind my existence? Is it necessary? After all, the entire property of the Ling family can only be inherited by my child in the future. Even if you have a child, it's just an illegitimate child with no name and no title. You won't get anything. You married Ling Han just for the Ling family's property? What do you think? If he treated you like that, would you still have any feelings for him? I'm going to tell Ling Han all this. Is that so? Try it, and see if he values the child in my belly or you. The voice abruptly stopped playing, and the living room returned to silence. Ling Han's face darkened, and he stared at Sheng Anren. Sheng Anren clenched the recording pen and looked heartbroken. Han, people change. I don't know if she loved you in the past, but it's impossible for her to love you now. Ling Han's silence made the atmosphere in the living room very heavy. Sheng Amren looked at his face and walked forward hesitantly. She said carefully, I'm the only one who really loves you and really wants to stay by your side. Not for anything else, but for you. When her fingers touched the crook of his arm, Ling Han frowned. A trace of undisguised coldness flashed across his eyes as he spat out 2 emotionless words. Is that so? Sheng Amren was frightened by the cold light in his eyes and froze in place. His hands were hanging in the air, and he was at a loss. Do you think I'll believe this kind of recording that came from nowhere? Ling Han sneered. Do you think that the position of Pleasure CEO can be taken by just anyone? Han, you don't believe me? Why should I believe you? Ling Han looked at her, his eyes full of alienation. Hearing this, Sheng Amren's heart trembled. She staggered and held the sofa in a panic. She gritted her teeth and said, I really didn't lie to you. This was recorded when I couldn't find you a month ago, and went to your house. She did it for the sake of the child in her belly, and to get the Ling family's assets. Her heart is not on you at all. Can't you feel it? Then what's the purpose of your recording? Ling Han didn't answer, but changed the topic. His eyes swept over her full of contempt. Sheng Amren only felt that her hands and feet were cold, and she couldn't say a word. Ling Han stared at her condescendingly. Even if the recording is true, Yi Huanyan is not wrong. She's pregnant with my child Ling Han. She has the reason and the right to covet my Ling family's assets. And you don't have the right to covet them. Han, humiliated to such an extent, contemptuous to such an extent. What else could she say? She watched him turn around, and all the tricks were choked in her throat. Sheng Amren, don't play tricks, and don't test my bottom line casually. The tall figure left the living room, leaving a room full of endless chill. Sheng Amren almost bit her lip. When she heard the car leave the courtyard, she grabbed the vase beside her and smashed it on the floor. The porcelain shattered and scattered all over the floor. The setting sun shone in, and the light on the glass shards reflected the insidiousness in her eyes. There was also a clear sarcasm. When Ling Han left, he seemed to be indifferent, but there was a faint trace of panic in his eyes. Even though it was just a flash, it had clearly landed in her eyes. Do you really believe her so much? She sneered. Or are all these just self-comforting words you said to yourself? At this time, the royal blue car galloped on the road. The man in the driver's seat holding the steering wheel was full of chill. His bony fingers held the steering wheel tightly and turned quickly. The 4 tires under the car rolled out clear ruts on the ground. He told himself not to doubt Yi Huanyan anymore. It was just a little trick of Sheng Amren to try to keep him. But there was still a thought in his heart telling him that there was a 1 in 10,000 possibility. Perhaps Yi Huanyan was like her mother, Jiang Meilan, who had 2 faces. He stepped on the accelerator fiercely, turned the steering wheel quickly, and galloped past the corner of the winding mountain road in an instant, barely brushing the guardrail. The friction of the wheels made a harsh roar. Only this kind of stimulation could make him highly concentrated and forget the things he tried to avoid. At this time, the ringtone of the mobile phone diverted his attention. Without even looking at the caller ID, he hurriedly put on the Bluetooth headset and pressed answer. He was anxious to have something else to distract his attention. At this time, a familiar voice came to his ear, as gentle as a warm wind, but it made his face more ugly. Come back for dinner at night? Where are you? What's the matter? His tone was involuntarily cold. Yi Huanyan didn't seem to feel his alienation. She was still gentle. The baby kicked me today. I was woken up by him. I guess he wanted me to call you. Hearing this, there was a moment of absent-mindedness in his eyes. The pain in his eyes and the ferociousness on his face gradually faded away. Some warm pictures involuntarily appeared in his mind. It was the gentle figure of her holding her waist and walking up and down the corridor. She was wearing wide striped overalls and a plain t-shirt. She held her waist with one hand and touched her stomach with the other. The setting sun shone on her body, exuding a soft brilliance. When she spoke again, she was already in a soft tone. I'm going back now. I have something to do. I'll be home in about 20 minutes. Okay, then I'll wait for you. Drive slowly. He should believe that Yi Huanyan wasn't a woman who was greedy for vanity. She was pregnant with his child, and her heart was on him and the child. What was there to doubt? Even if it was true, as long as the child was there, she wouldn't leave. With that thought, he slowly released his foot from the accelerator and looked straight ahead. The speed of the car gradually stabilized, and he drove all the way to Jinjiang Court. Chapter 262. Yi Huanyan was in the kitchen helping Lingling prepare dinner when she suddenly heard the doorbell ring. She wondered if Ling Han had forgotten the passcode, but Lingling had already opened the door before her, so she didn't think too much about it. Not long after, she heard a familiar voice from the living room. "Ah, Miss Ji is here." Ji Xiaoya nodded at Lingling and stuffed the things she brought into her hands. Then she walked towards the kitchen and shouted, "Yin Yin, I don't have to work overtime today. Do you mind if I come to your place for dinner?" Yi Huanyan was stunned for a moment. Then she turned to look at her. She wiped her hands on her apron and walked out with a tray. "Sure, Ling Han will be back soon. We can eat together." Ji Xiaoya was pulling out a chair at the dining table when she suddenly saw Yi Huanyan's plump figure. She was stunned. "What's wrong with your belly?" Before Yi Huanyan could answer, she widened her eyes and exclaimed, "When did you get pregnant?" Although Yi Huanyan had expected this reaction, she still felt a little guilty. She whispered, "About 6 months ago." Ji Xiaoya was stunned. She silently calculated in her heart. 6 months ago was before the new year. The last time she saw Yi Huanyan was 2 months ago when she handed over her job at Fengshang magazine. At that time, she felt that Yi Huanyan had obviously lost weight, but her waist had put on a lot of weight. She didn't think in that direction at all. After that, they kept in contact over the phone for the past 2 months. They didn't see each other at all. When they met again, she was already a pregnant woman. With that thought, Ji Xiaoya became angry. She said angrily, "Wow, Yi Huanyan, how could you not tell me such a big thing? If I hadn't come today, were you planning to not tell me until the child was born? Were you hiding it from me because you were afraid that I would steal your child? You're busy. I didn't intend to hide it from you. But Fengshang's work is really very busy. Come have a piece of braised pork." With that, Yi Huanyan stuffed a piece of red braised pork into Ji Xiaoya's unforgiving mouth. Ji Xiaoya ate the meat and mumbled something. Yi Huanyan pretended not to know what was going on. After going back and forth a few times, she finally calmed down. After swallowing the meat, she pretended to slap the table. "Tell me the truth. What else are you hiding from me? Don't try to use my work as an excuse to not tell me." Yi Huanyan had no choice but to take off her apron and hand it to Lingling, who was giggling at the side. Then she sat down with Ji Xiaoya. "There's really nothing to hide from you." "Really?" Ji Xiaoya looked at her suspiciously. "Don't tell me you're not Ling Han's child. What are you talking about?" Yi Huanyan glared at her. Ji Xiaoya pursed her lips. "Then according to what you said, this child is Ling Han's. He was still hanging out with Sheng Anren a month ago. I almost thought that he was going to marry Sheng Anren." After saying that, she seemed to be quite indignant and said angrily, "It's good that it's not. He's a heartless jerk. He's not someone who can live a good life. Why don't you think about how badly he treats you? No man would be like that. His brain must have been flooded with water." Hearing Ji Xiaoya say that about Ling Han, Yi Huanyan was very upset. She pursed her lips. "Wait a minute." After saying this, he held his waist and stomped up the stairs. Ji Xiaoya panicked when she saw this. "Hey, walk slowly." Not long after, she came back the way she came and put a bright red marriage certificate in front of her. "Look, we already got our marriage certificate 2 months ago." Ji Xiaoya opened the little red booklet skeptically and looked at Yi Huanyan with furrowed brows. "Are you crazy? Did you find a fake marriage certificate? Will a heartless guy like him have any sense of responsibility? Will he really turn over a new leaf and change his mind to marry you?" At that moment, a tall figure who had been standing at the entrance for a long time entered their line of sight. He coughed dryly to attract their attention. "The wedding will be held after the child is born. We'll hold it again in spring next year. When the invitation is in your hands, you won't think that it's fake, right?" His voice was not as cold as usual. It was rare for him to be more patient. He was giving face to Yi Huanyan. Hearing Ling Han's voice, Ji Xiaoya's face turned pale at first. She suddenly remembered what Ling Han had done to Yi Huanyan and felt indignant. Just as she was about to scold him, she was interrupted by the heartless Yi Huanyan. She put her hand on her shoulder and said with a smile, "Han, you're back. Xiao Yu came to our house for dinner today. She said that she'll stay at our house tonight and wants to go shopping with me tomorrow." Ji Xiaoya was full of anger. She rolled her eyes at Yi Huanyan. "When did I say that I wanted to go shopping with you? However, she wanted to see Ling Han's reaction. After all, this man was so possessive that it was scary. Okay, but it's inconvenient because you're pregnant. How about this? I'll send you there tomorrow. Yi Huanyan smiled gently. Just as she was about to say no, a strong voice interrupted from behind. Okay, it's just right. President Ling will pay and carry the things behind us. We two women don't have the strength. Besides, Yin Yin is pregnant. She turned around and saw Ji Xiaoya looking indignant. She was obviously looking for trouble. Ling Han only said that he would send them to the mall, but he did not say that he would go shopping with them. Yi Huanyan tugged at Ji Xiaoya's arm, hinting her not to act rashly. However, Ji Xiaoya looked indignant and mustered up all her strength to stand up for her. Okay, in that case, let's have lunch outside. I'll get someone to book a restaurant in advance. Ling Han's response was so straightforward that Ji Xiaoya was stunned. Yi Huanyan was also stunned. That's okay. Let's eat first. Ji Xiaoya was the first to come back to her senses and agreed awkwardly. Ling Han went to the bathroom to wash his hands, so she pulled Yi Huanyan to sit down beside her. Yi Huanyan lowered her voice. Did you shoot yourself in the foot? I don't even know if you're free tomorrow. If I'm not free, I'll take the day off. I have to see how he treats you now. Otherwise, I won't be at ease. Ji Xiaoya raised her eyebrows. She looked like she was determined to test this Ling Han tomorrow. After dinner, Ling Han went straight to the study and left the time for their best friends. In the guest room, Yi Huanyan was pulled aside by Ji Xiaoya and asked all sorts of questions. She asked why she agreed to marry him so easily, why women should be more reserved, and why it was easier to change a leopard than to change its spots. In the end, she heard, Ling Han definitely won't change his ways. Yi Huanyan couldn't take it anymore and interrupted her helplessly. Xiao Yu, we haven't seen each other in so long. Are you sure you want to tell me this? Ji Xiaoya was stunned when she heard this. She frowned inside. Forget it. Let's not talk about this anymore. Let's talk about something happier. Yi Huanyan heaved a sigh of relief. In the middle of the night, Ling Han finished his work and went back to his room to rest. When he opened the door, he saw that the room was empty. He frowned and walked out of the master bedroom. His gaze landed on the tightly shut door of the guest room in the distance. Chapter 263. Knock knock knock. Yi Huanyan opened the door to the guest room drowsily and looked at Ling Han quizzically. Why aren't you asleep yet? You're asleep? Ling Han asked as if he already knew the answer. Yi Huanyan yawned and said slowly, Xiao Yu asked me to sleep with her, so I slept here. Ling Han looked past Yi Huanyan and landed on the bed in the guest room. Ji Xiaoya was sprawled out on all fours and was snoring softly. Even the thunder wouldn't wake her up. She's asleep. Yes. Yi Huanyan nodded in confusion, not understanding what was going on. Ling Han sighed in his heart when he saw Yi Huanyan's confused look. He had no choice but to do it himself. Yi Huanyan suddenly woke up from her stupor. She wrapped her arms tightly around Ling Han's neck and was carried back to the master bedroom. Ji Xiaoya woke up the next day. When she didn't see anyone next to her, she yelled that she had been deceived. She complained throughout breakfast that Yi Huanyan had forgotten about her friends because of her lover. Yi Huanyan knew that she was in the wrong, so she couldn't say anything. She could only serve her food. When Ji Xiaoya saw a bowl of steaming hot tofu pudding placed in front of her, she pouted ungratefully. Ling Han said faintly, Last night, I saw your amazing sleeping posture. There's a 90% chance that you'll kick Yen out of bed in the middle of the night, but you're still in a deep sleep. Just like you said, she's pregnant. Ji Xiaoya's face turned red when she heard this. Yi Huanyan quickly put down the tofu pudding and put on a fried dough stick. Xiao Yu, come here. Eat this fried dough stick. Ling Ling made it herself. It's healthier than the ones outside. Ji Xiaoya bit on the fried dough stick angrily and glared at Ling Han. When Yi Huanyan said that she was full, she put on her jacket at lightning speed. She stared at Ling Han and scolded him. Are you still not leaving? Look at the time. Can't you go shopping? You're such a slow man. Ling Han looked up at Yi Huanyan. Yi Huanyan looked at him helplessly and shook her head at him, indicating that he shouldn't argue with Ji Xiaoya. The three of them left the house and went straight to Lanjiang City's largest shopping mall, Wanning Plaza. It had everything from furniture to clothing. Since Ling Han had the title of nation's husband, Yi Huanyan specially took a mask and a pair of sunglasses and told him to wear them. After getting out of the car, she wanted to pass the mask to Ling Han, but Ji Xiaoya stopped her and scolded her in a sarcastic tone. "He's not a celebrity. Aren't you just burying your head in the sand?" Yi Huanyan glared at her. "What are you doing? Aren't you saving us a lot of trouble?" Ji Xiaoya raised her eyebrows and put on an arrogant look. "At most, you'll be photographed. It's not like you'll be chased around like a celebrity. Why should I wear it?" Yi Huanyan still wanted to argue, but she felt a warmth in her palm. She looked up instinctively and saw Ling Han looking at Ji Xiaoya with a smile in his eyes. He looked like he had seen through her. Ji Xiaoya was already feeling guilty. Seeing this, she rushed forward to press the elevator button and mumbled, "Hurry up. The sooner we finish shopping, the sooner we can have lunch." Yi Huanyan was puzzled. "What's wrong with Xiaoyu today?" Ling Han held her hand tightly and said calmly, "Nothing. She's right. I'm not a celebrity, so I don't have to worry too much when I go out. Let's go." As soon as they entered the mall, Ji Xiaoya pulled Yi Huanyan and ran into all kinds of luxury stores. "Yin Yin, look, I think this dress suits you very well." As they spoke, Ji Xiaoya picked up a beige dress and gestured it to Yi Huanyan. Regardless of whether she was willing or not, she pushed her into the fitting room. "Hey, Yi Huanyan held the dress in her hand and looked at her slightly bloated self in the mirror. She really didn't know where to start. If she put it on, she would burst, wouldn't she? Outside the fitting room, Ji Xiaoya ran her hand across the rows of clothes racks and pretended to be nonchalant. "Ling Han, don't you think this dress suits Yin Yin very well?" Seeing that Ling Han didn't speak, her hand stopped on a dress, and she turned around to look for him. She suddenly met a pair of eyes that seemed to be smiling at her. "Why aren't you saying anything? You can't bear to buy it for Yin Yin?" She straightened her neck and forced herself to look imposing. Ling Han turned his head to look at the row of clothes and said calmly, "Yin Yin has too many black and white dresses in her wardrobe, so I don't think it's necessary." Ji Xiaoya immediately frowned. How can a woman complain about having too many clothes? However, Ling Han acted as if he didn't hear what she said and looked at the salesperson beside him. "I don't want black and white. Wrap up everything else." Not only Ji Xiaoya, but all the salespeople in the store were shocked and looked at each other. The salesperson stuttered and asked, "I'm sorry, you mean all styles and colors?" Ling Han looked at Ji Xiaoya, his dark eyes unperturbed. "Except for black and white." When Yi Huanyan came out of the changing room, she saw 7 or 8 salespeople holding all kinds of clothes in the store. The person who looked like the store manager was throwing clothes into their hands, and 7 or 8 people were moving clothes around. The scene was as strange as it could be. "What's going on?" Yi Huanyan asked blankly. Ji Xiaoya snapped back to her senses and hurried over to her. She said awkwardly, "Nothing, I'm just buying clothes." Why haven't you changed?" "I can't fit into these clothes." Yi Huanyan smiled awkwardly. "I can't fit into the waistline, so forget it. You can still wear them after you give birth." A clear voice interrupted. Then, the clothes in Yi Huanyan's hands fell into Ling Han's hands. "Wrap this up too." Yi Huanyan didn't even have time to stop him. She didn't know what happened, but she saw Ling Han leave the card behind. Then, she was pulled out of the store by Ji Xiaoya. "You haven't taken the clothes yet," Yi Huanyan exclaimed. "Wait a minute." Ji Xiaoya looked up at Ling Han and smiled awkwardly. "They'll deliver them to your doorstep." Yi Huanyan muttered to herself. Nowadays, shopping malls can deliver clothes to your doorstep? Don't they care about the cost of manpower? The next few stores did the same. After shopping in a few stores, Yi Huanyan didn't have a single piece of clothing in her hands. She looked a little dispirited. "There's nothing to shop for. Xiaoyu, your clothes are new designs from Fengshang. I can't wear them now, so why are we shopping in a clothing store?" An idea flashed in her mind. Why don't Then let's go to the furniture store and have a look. Ji Xiaoya blinked her eyes, looking very excited. Yi Huanyan was speechless. She clearly meant to shop at the mother and baby stores. When they arrived at the furniture store, Ji Xiaoya practically massacred the stores like she was shopping at a discount mall. Ling Han didn't have anything to do. He sat down on a sofa with Yi Huanyan in his arms and watched Ji Xiaoya run back and forth in the furniture store. A salesperson followed behind her to sign orders. Yi Huanyan looked surprised and mumbled, "Is Xiaoyu going to buy a new house and renovate it?" Chapter 264. At the side, Ling Han had a meaningful smile on his face. "I'm afraid she's going to help us decorate the new house." Huh. Yi Huanyan turned around. "What do you mean?" Ling Han casually pointed at two pieces of furniture and said, "Look, which one of these things isn't according to the layout of our house?" "Are you talking about Xiaoyu?" Yi Huanyan finally caught on. She said in surprise, "Are you saying that Xiaoyu ran around signing a bunch of orders just for us?" Ling Han nodded slightly with an indifferent expression on his face. "The furniture in the house has just been changed. I'll tell her." Before Yi Huanyan could get up, Ling Han put his arm around her. "Let her do what she wants. It's not easy to find a place to rest. Do you want to keep following her around?" "But there's nothing wrong with changing the furniture," he said gently. Yi Huanyan was still a little hesitant, but she couldn't dissuade Ling Han, so she had no choice but to sit down. However, when she saw Ji Xiaoya shouting, "I want this and that too," she couldn't help but remind her. "Didn't you just order a bed? Where are you going to put another one?" Ji Xiaoya turned around with a smile. "The guest room. It'll be more convenient for me to stay there." Even the salesperson was speechless. Ji Xiaoya caused a huge commotion in the furniture store. In the end, even the manager came out to check the goods and arrange the transportation. The only people who had the most time were Yi Huanyan and Ling Han. Ling Han naturally knew what Ji Xiaoya was trying to do. She was just using this opportunity to test her sincerity towards Yi Huanyan. This method was simple and crude, and to Ling Han it wasn't a big deal. But seeing that she was Yi Huanyan's best friend, he let her feel at ease and let her do as she pleased. During lunch, Yi Huanyan went to the bathroom, leaving only Ji Xiaoya and Ling Han at the table. Ji Xiaoya stared at Ling Han rudely. "I spent so much of your money today. Don't you feel bad?" Ling Han looked up and said, "You're spending Yin Yan's money." Ji Xiaoya was at a loss for words. It wasn't easy for anyone to win against Ling Han in a battle of words. "Don't think that you can make me believe that you're sincere to Yin Yan, just because you're generous. You definitely don't have good intentions. A leopard can't change its spots. Then why are you still sitting here and eating with me? I'm supervising you." Ji Xiaoya reached out her right hand and pointed her index finger and middle finger at her own eyes. Then at Ling Han. With a warning look on her face, she said, "I just want to tell you that although Yin Yan doesn't have a family, I'm considered part of her family. If you dare to bully Yin Yan again, What will you do?" Ji Xiaoya was in a dilemma. She was far from Ling Han's weight. What should she say? She rolled her eyes and said fiercely, "I can guarantee that you'll never see Yin Yan again in this lifetime." This kind of oath sounded like a baseless threat, but Ling Han felt his heart skip a beat and inexplicably tightened. Yi Huanyan came out of the restroom and saw Ji Xiaoya's hostile expression. She knew that she was probably looking for trouble again. She quickly sat back in her seat and secretly poked Ji Xiaoya. She lowered her voice and said, "That's enough. If you leave after threatening him, I'll be so embarrassed." Ji Xiaoya pursed her lips. "Forget your friends when you're in love." After saying this, she put down her chopsticks and said, "All right, since you don't welcome me, I won't be a hindrance here. I'll leave first." "Huh." Yi Huanyan was anxious. "Why are you angry after I said a few words? I was just joking with you. Sit down and eat properly. No one here doesn't welcome you. Is that so?" Ji Xiaoya glanced at Ling Han. "Do you want dessert?" Ling Han looked at her. Ji Xiaoya finally admitted defeat and said frankly, "I really don't want to eat. I only took half a day off. I still have something to do. I have to catch a flight to Los Angeles tonight." "You're going abroad?" Yi Huanyan looked surprised. Why didn't you tell me last night? It's a last-minute job. I just received a notice from the managing editor this morning. I'm going to pick up 2 sets of clothes, and we'll be back in 2 days. After saying this, she had already grabbed her bag and jacket. She smiled and pressed Yi Huanyan's shoulder to make her sit properly in the chair. I'm quite relieved to see you like this. Be good. I'll bring you a gift when I come back. Yi Huanyan was a little reluctant to leave. Ling Han stood behind her and took the initiative to ask, Yen Yen, and I can send you back. It's okay. The company car is waiting for me in the mall's underground parking lot. I'll go home and pack my luggage before heading to the airport. It'll be troublesome if you follow me. Then have a safe trip. Take good care of Yen Yen. The two of them seemed to have a tacit understanding. There seemed to be a secret hidden in their simple conversation. Yi Huanyan was stunned as she watched. After Ji Xiaoya left, she sat down and asked suspiciously, Why did Xiaoyu raise her eyebrows and stare at you just now? What did the two of you talk about when I wasn't around? Ling Han looked calm as usual. He picked up some food and placed it in Yi Huanyan's bowl. Shouldn't you be asking her how she is? Yi Huanyan frowned and thought to herself, That's true. Yi Huanyan heard the vibration of the phone. When she saw that Ling Han had hung up the phone, she asked, Is it about the company? Why don't you answer it? Xiaoyu has already left. If you have something to do, you can go back first. Ling Han hesitated for a moment, then nodded and dialed a number. The call was from Qiao Mu. While they were shopping, she had already called 3 or 4 times. However, out of consideration for Yi Huanyan's reputation in front of Ji Xiaoya, Ling Han did not answer the call. The return call was quickly picked up. His voice had returned to its usual tone at work. It was cold and different and always very serious. Yi Huanyan was about to pick up food for him when she saw his expression change. What happened? Okay, I got it. You guys deal with it first. I'll go back for a meeting. After a few words, he hung up the phone. Yi Huanyan hurriedly asked, What happened? Did something happen at the company? It's said that several of the company's important artists were exposed online. The company's public relations department is in a mess right now. We can't find the source of the media that published the news, so I have to go back for a meeting. Ling Han did not hide it from Yi Huanyan, and straightforwardly told her about the matter. Yi Huanyan's expression also changed. Then hurry back. This is not a small matter. It will be bad if there are more news about other artists. Then you. Don't worry about me. I can take a taxi back myself. Ling Han hesitated for a moment. How about this? You eat here first, and I'll have Qiao Mu take you home. Seeing that he was still thinking about his safety at a time like this, Yi Huanyan felt warmth in her heart. She nodded gently and stood up to straighten his bow tie before saying softly, I'm okay. Be careful on the road. Don't worry. Chapter 265. Ling Han's car was on the way to the pleasure group. During this period of time, the scandals of the artists that had been spread on the internet had become the talk of the town. Among them, the most popular was the artist of the pleasure group, who was on par with Sheng Anren and Guan Nai. Lu Yufei, who had 40 million fans and was an actress in both film and television, had won the Golden Bell Award last year and was an A-list actress. She debuted 5 years ago, and it was revealed that before her debut, she had sat on the stage at the Dongzhou Hot Spring Club. There was also the singer Hua Tian, who had just signed a contract last year. His drug scandal abroad 10 years ago was completely exposed. Although he had quit drug use now, it was basically impossible for him to make a comeback now that this matter was exposed. There was also Qi Mingyan, who had always been a veteran in front of fans and audiences. Among the scandals exposed, the most shocking one was that he had gone to Zhangzhou to do a road show half a year ago and recruited prostitutes in a hotel. Other scandals of some A-list artists were also thoroughly exposed. There were also some good ones, who did not leave their names behind to do public service in private, but it had been taken by red-eyed fans as a means to clear their names. There was a lot of criticism on the internet. Good news did not leave the door, but bad news spread far and wide. The artists who were implicated had affected more than half of the entertainment circle. When Ling Han arrived at the company, the whole company's phone had been blown up with calls. Even the front desk and the finance department were not spared. Papers were flying everywhere, and the people of the public relations department were walking around anxiously. Ling Han took a deep breath, turned around, and turned off the communication switch on the entire floor of the public relations department. The moment the noisy ringing stopped, the chaotic first floor of the office fell into a strange silence. Xiao Dong ran over with a notebook in her arms. "President Ling, you're finally here," informed the technical department and the people in charge of the advertising and publicity department to have a meeting in the meeting room of the public relations department. Ling Han's calm mood affected the entire public relations department. Finally, after his order, the whole department fell into an orderly state of work. Those who prepared the materials in the meeting room, those who notified the other departments, and those who were responsible for network monitoring were all busy. Xiaomu picked up Yi Huanyan in the car and sent her to Jinjiang Park Villa. Yi Huanyan could not help but ask about the company's situation. Xiaomu's gaze was evasive. If it weren't for Yi Huanyan sitting behind her, she would have been seen through several times. President Ling has already gone back. This matter should be done by an insider. After all, no one outside can get the information that we have suppressed all these years. Aren't they reporters? This information was bought from the media over the years. Are you sure it wasn't them who leaked it? It's too concentrated. It's impossible for multiple media outlets to leak this information together. Yi Huanyan was more or less surprised by Xiaomu's denial. He did not seem to be such an arbitrary person. Perhaps it was because Yi Huanyan was in a rush to return to the company, but the car was very fast, so Xiaomu was unable to obtain any useful information. When she wanted to ask for more details before getting off the car, Xiaomu glanced at her with great resistance. "Miss Yi, you're no longer working at Pleasure. Isn't it a bad idea to ask so many questions?" Yi Huanyan's heart skipped a beat. She looked into Xiaomu's eyes for a long time, at a loss for words. "I understand." She took a deep breath. "I won't ask any more. Be careful on the road, Assistant Xiao." After getting out of the car, she waved at Xiaomu. Although she was a bit disappointed, she did not show any displeasure. Xiaomu was right. As a non-employee of Pleasure, she already knew a bit too much. She really should not ask too many questions. She had to avoid arousing suspicion. Ling Han did not return home for the next 3 days. In order not to disturb him, Yi Huanyan did not call to ask. She only secretly searched for the news these days on the internet. She could vaguely see Pleasure's public relations tactics from controlling comments and removing the trending topics. But these tactics seemed to have little effect. In the president's office of Pleasure Group, Xiaomu reported the latest public relations situation to Ling Han. It didn't have much effect. Although Lu Yufei's prostitution, Hua Tian's drug use, and Qi Mingyan's prostitution have all been removed, the comments under the trending topics are still related to them. "Did you find out who did it?" Ling Han asked. "There are no clues at the moment. The technology department is still investigating the IP address that sent these posts. We've confirmed that it's near Lanjiang suburbs, but we're still confirming it. Is it a competitor?" "No." Xiaomu firmly denied this guess. "Our competitors, including the media companies in China Beta, have all followed the trend and released rumors yesterday morning, including Guan Nai being kept as a mistress and Sheng Anren being a mistress. However, because there is no evidence, they are all empty rumors, so the first 3 posts are still on the main page. Guan Nai is being kept as a mistress." Ling Han frowned. Xiaomu sighed helplessly. "With Guan Nai's background, I don't think anyone in the country would dare to keep her as a mistress. It's more likely that she is keeping someone else as a mistress. We don't need to do anything about this trending topic. The Guan family will probably remove it themselves." Ling Han lowered his head, looking as if he was deep in thought. Guan Nai was being kept as a mistress? "Xiaomu, contact Guan Nai and tell her that I want to see her." Xiaomu was slightly taken aback. "Guan Nai? She should be on vacation in Iceland right now. I'm afraid. Prepare a plane ticket. I want to go to Iceland on the earliest flight. In Jinjiang court, Lingling was helping the people from Wanning Mall organize the several hundred pieces of clothing that were delivered. After filling up the walk-in closet, they had no choice but to tidy up the previously empty walk-in closet and continue stuffing it in. Lingling felt dizzy and complained incessantly. Miss Yi, you don't usually buy clothes. Why did you book the entire mall every time you buy clothes? Yi Huanyan was also dumbfounded. She grabbed a woman who looked like a supervisor who was directing people to move the clothes and asked, "Are you sure I bought all of these that day?" The supervisor had a respectful expression. Indeed, that day, President Ling bought all the styles and colors of the current season from our store. Other than the black and white styles that we didn't buy, these 120 new styles were all delivered and ironed. How is it only 120? I think there's more than 1,200. The supervisor looked around. Here, this brand is from our store. The others should be from other stores, and should be similar to ours. Madam, your husband is really good to you. Yi Huanyan facepalmed. She was at a loss for words as she looked at the living room piled up with clothes. She didn't even have a place to stand. Just how many things did Ling Han and Ji Xiaoya buy behind her back that day? Just as she was thinking, her phone suddenly rang. It was a call from the neighborhood security guard. Miss Yi, there is a driver from Wanning Furniture Store at the entrance. He has 2 trucks and says that the furniture you bought has arrived. He wants to confirm with you. Should I let them in? Yi Huanyan's face paled again. Again. Chapter 266. In Iceland, a man wearing a white fox fur coat was hugging a woman with delicate features as they sat on a single sofa by the stove. The woman's skin was so fair and translucent that one could almost see the pink veins under her skin. She looked like a fragile glass doll. Without makeup, she was beautiful and cold. At the moment, she was barefoot. Her beautiful feet stepped on the carpet like they were carved from white jade, making people unable to look away. Guan, when no company dared to sign you, I agreed to your request. So this time, you have to do me a favor. Ling Han had arrived last night. In order to wait for this eccentric woman to wake up, he had waited for an entire night. Guan yawned and stretched lazily on the sofa without a care for her image. The fox fur coat slid down to her waist. She tugged at it casually and shrunk back into it. She said lazily, "Why didn't you just call them? Why did you have to come here personally?" Ling Han frowned. "Do you have a signal here? Even if you do, would you pick up the phone?" Guan raised her eyes. Okay, just tell me. What is it? I'll go to sleep after you're done." Every year, during the scorching summer, Miss Guan, who was as famous as Sheng Amren in the film industry, would disappear from the face of the earth. She would come to Iceland to rest and recuperate for 2 months. 3 years ago, when Ling Han had signed her, this request had been included in the contract. Someone said that I'm a kept woman? Guan eyelids drooped. That's it? You're looking for me for this? Is it necessary? Who dares to keep me? Ask them to come in front of me and let me see. That's not it. Ling Han straightened his face. I want this to be a hot topic on the internet for a while. It's best to write more in depth. Since it's black material, it'll be black to the end. Hearing this, Guan was silent for a few seconds. When he raised his head again, he already knew what was going on. President Ling, you're quite creative. So if I don't do this personally, I'm afraid no one can do it. Ling Han's clear eyes sparkled under the fire. Just like when Guan first met him 3 years ago, he was like a cunning fox. She blinked. How did you know I would agree? As the princess of the royal family of Eastern Europe, you can't go back on your word. I've taken you in for 3 years. The fire emitted the sound of splashing wood, which was very warm. Guan curled her lips, as if she despised the Eastern European royal family. I'm a purebred Easterner. Even if I'm a princess of the Eastern European royal family with blonde hair and blue eyes, I'm just a toy they picked up. Don't flatter me. Besides, I've earned a lot of money for you in the past 3 years. You spent a lot too. While speaking, Ling Han looked around the splendidly decorated house, and the words in his heart went without saying. Guan Nai was blinded by his gifts, so it was fine if he put on airs. But he didn't really argue with him. I don't have any objections. You can just greet them as you please. But you have to think about it yourself with some people. If you annoy them, I won't help you clean up the mess. That's all I need. Ling Han already had a plan in mind, so he got up and was about to leave. When he reached the door, Guan Nai suddenly thought of something and shouted, "Hey, if something happens, don't tell him that I'm here." Ling Han didn't turn around and responded vaguely. He was a businessman, and when the time came he couldn't be sure. The cost of taking care of this princess was really high, and the profit was not much. It was good that that person took her away as soon as possible. As soon as Ling Han left Iceland, the headlines on the front page changed. The three major artist scandals were all suppressed, and no amount of evidence could compare to this headline. Fairy sister Guan Nai has been kept by dozens of men in the past 3 years of her popularity. When this kind of scandals was first released, even Pleasure's competitors were a little overwhelmed and removed all connections between their companies and Guan Nai. Pleasure actually didn't do anything and let the matter ferment for 24 hours. In the end, all kinds of so-called evidence were released. There were even photos of the CEO of a media company, the director of a TV station, and even photos of him being caught in bed by the director's wife. It was only a silhouette, so it couldn't be completely confirmed that it was Guan Nai. But first impressions were the strongest, and the internet was already one-sided. Pleasure only posted a sentence on its official Weibo about such scandals. It's purely a rumor. These 4 words without any confidence made the internet go into an uproar again, as if this was an admission. Until 24 hours later, the Current Politics News Network released a shocking news. The second heir of the Eastern European royal family, the Crown Prince, announced his marriage to his childhood sweetheart, his adopted sister, Guan Nai. The Current Politics News Network didn't pay much attention to it, but after some people forwarded it to the internet, there were a lot of rumors about Guan Nai's background. Someone found out that she entered the Eastern European royal family at the age of 5 and was the adopted daughter of the Queen of the Eastern European royal family. She came to China at the age of 18 to develop her career. 3 years ago, she signed a contract with Pleasure and had a strong backer behind all her movies. Since her debut, she had almost no scandals and would disappear for a few months every year. When the marriage news came out, these disappearances were also explained. The entire internet was in an uproar. After Pleasure's official Weibo published a series of articles that were suspected to be satirizing their competitors' lack of professional integrity and slandering them, the netizens were all fence-sitters. They all scolded the rumor makers and implicated many media companies. Those who had exposed the news before were now treated as jokes and ignored. Although it was a close call, Pleasure was still hurt by this public relations crisis. The collapse of the artist's image caused the sales of many brands endorsed by their own artists to plummet. Many customers would rather breach the contract than continue to cooperate with them. The netizens were easy to fool, but the partners were not. Everyone could see that this was a clever public relations campaign. After that, Xiao Mu reported the company's losses during this period and gave the list to Ling Han to sign. Did you find out? Ling Han lowered his head to sign and asked him about the thorough investigation of this incident. Only Xiao Dong from the secretary's office, me from the assistant group, you, and the 2 secretaries who left before saw the information. Only you, Xiao Dong, me, and secretary, you know the secret key. Since it's confirmed that it was an internal problem, excluding you, the only suspects left are me, Xiao Dong, and secretary Yi. You really dared to take the blame for this. Ling Han laughed and handed the signed contract to him. I trust your character. As for that Xiao Dong, is there a problem? It shouldn't be Xiao Dong's problem. Xiao Mu hesitated and looked like he wanted to say something. On the day of the incident, Xiao Dong was working overtime in the company, and the source of the IP address that first published the artist's information was. Seeing Xiao Mu hemming and hawing, Ling Han looked up with a profound gaze. Speak. It was Jinjiang Park. Ling Han's face suddenly darkened. Chapter 267. Jinjiang Park. Ling Han repeated the address that Xiao Mu gave him word by word, and his face was already shrouded in a layer of frost. You're saying that the information leak this time came from somewhere near my house? Xiao Mu lowered his head with a calm expression. Director Ling, from the company's technology department's investigation, the initial location of the information leak has already been accurately pinpointed to your villa in Jinjiang Park, not just nearby. Also, there's something else that I think I need to remind you of. Speak. On the afternoon of the incident, when I sent Secretary Yi back, she made a lot of inquiries about the leak. I don't know how much you told her, but she kept asking about the company's plan to deal with it, so I think. A crisp breaking sound rang out in the air. A gel pen broke in Ling Han's right hand, and ink seeped out of the pen's plastic casing and soaked the white paper on the table. Xiao Mu's expression stiffened, and he swallowed back the words he wanted to say. Ling Han looked up at him and questioned, You think that Yi Huanyan did this? I'm just stating facts. Xiao Mu only felt suffocated under his intense gaze. Ling Han's face was cold, and he revealed a displeased expression. Xiao Mu, what do you think will benefit her from leaking the company's artist's information? Tiny beads of sweat seeped out of Xiao Mu's forehead, and he hesitantly said, I don't know. His sharp eyes kept staring at him, as if he wanted to see through his thoughts. After a while, the owner of those eyes suddenly changed the topic. Is there any information about Su Nianhua in this information leak? No. Xiao Mu was slightly taken aback. The company's A-list and A-list artists are all in it, except for Su Nianhua. There's no information at all? No. The office returned to silence, and Ling Han's expression became increasingly gloomy and cold. Xiao Mu stood to the side and did his best to maintain his composure. However, when Ling Han told him to leave, he turned around and slowly exhaled. Ling Han wasn't a fool. If the target of this incident hadn't been Yi Huanyan, and if it hadn't been for the unclear relationship between Su Nianhua and Yi Huanyan, he would have exposed his intentions with his words just now. Keeping Su Nianhua's information and letting Ling Han discover it himself was his last trump card. On the way back to Jinjiang Court, Ling Han's face was very ugly, and the coldness in his eyes did not diminish in the slightest. Xiao Mu escorted him to the entrance of the villa. After inquiring about how to deal with this matter, she did not dare to ask any more questions. It was noon in June, and the moment they stepped out of the car, they were greeted by the scorching sun. The sun shone on the black suit, which absorbed the heat with all its might. That figure disappeared from Xiao Mu's sight, but it still made his heart cold. A trace of regret flashed through his eyes. He slowly rolled down the car window and anxiously shouted. Director Ling Han turned around and looked at him with a frown. What's wrong? A ringtone rang in the car. It was her exclusive ringtone. Xiao Mu's expression froze, and the words that were about to come out of his mouth changed. I just wanted to say that since this matter is over, Director Ling shouldn't take it to heart. Ling Han did not comment, and turned to walk into the house. Behind him was the sound of the car starting and driving away. Finally, it disappeared around the corner covered by trees, and exited the west gate of Jinjiang Court. Xiao Mu did not answer the phone until a long time after he left Jinjiang Court. On the other end of the phone, the woman's voice sounded very anxious. How is it? Does he believe you? A trace of sadness flashed through Xiao Mu's eyes. He does. Then Yi Huanyan. Xiao Mu glanced at her phone's battery. I'll go to Fujin Court in a bit. Let's talk when we meet. After saying this, she hung up without waiting for Sheng Anren's response. The moment he hung up the phone, his eyes were filled with a complicated expression, and his heart was filled with mixed feelings. Ever since Yi Huanyan entered Pleasure, they were colleagues. Back then, when she was Ling Dongming's secretary, he was still the assistant of the branch company's manager, Ling Han. Not many people in the company knew of her identity. Because of his relationship with Ling Han, he knew about this, so he always kept a certain distance from her, and was very reserved. At that time, Yi Huanyan was very lively, and called him Brother Xiao Mu, without the slightest air of a young lady. Perhaps it was because of Ling Han, But every time he went to the headquarters to do something, Yi Huanyan would always make things convenient for him. At first, he thought that Yi Huanyan was only a rich missy who lived off her parents. Later on, when they worked together at the headquarters, he truly witnessed her outstanding workability and adaptability. He admired her. As an outsider who had always observed her relationship with Ling Han, his admiration for her was indescribable. A woman whose workability was on par with his, who was smart and quick-witted, who had top-notch resistance to pressure, and who had several years less experience than him. He didn't dare to think about what kind of slander this kind of woman would face under his calculations. He stomped hard on the accelerator, trying to numb his conscience with the stimulation of speed. Yi Huanyan sat on a cushion next to the swimming pool in the backyard. Her feet were submerged in the pool water, and she occasionally stepped on it. She had a parasol over her head and a magazine in her hand, looking very content. When she heard voices in the living room, she pulled out her feet and carelessly stomped on the carpet by the pool before running barefooted into the living room. "You're back." Ling Han was handing the suit to Lingling when he heard this. He raised his head and coldly sized up the woman in front of him, who was already very familiar to him. Unexpectedly, she suddenly jogged a few steps and rushed into his arms. Her hands passed through his waist and the inside of his arms and hugged his back. His arms immediately warmed up. "Did you know that the baby moved again?" The voice that came was very sweet and gentle with heartfelt joy. He was stunned for a few seconds, but in the end, he slowly put his hands around her shoulders and asked softly, "When?" "Before you came back. I was sitting by the swimming pool, and he kept kicking me. The baby seems to be very sensitive to water. Come with me." As she spoke, she pulled Ling Han's hand and walked toward the swimming pool in the backyard. In Fujin Court, a black SUV was parked in the garage. In the living room, Sheng Amren was holding 2 glasses of juice, one of which she handed to Qiao Mu. "You said on the phone that Ling Han believed you. Then where is he now?" He dropped all his work and directly returned to Jinjiang Court. Hearing this, Sheng Amren immediately sneered. "I don't believe that he can spare Yi Huanyan after such a thing happened this time. Don't you want to ask his attitude toward this incident?" Qiao Mu looked up at Sheng Amren with a very complicated gaze that seemed to be pity and mockery. He ordered the HR department to fire Secretary Dong and dismantle the secretary's office. Sheng Amren frowned. She seemed to have thought of something, and her expression softened. That was to give the people in the company an explanation. If Yi Huanyan was in the secretary's office, she would probably be the one to be fired. "This was within my expectations." Qiao Mu snickered. "Was it within your expectations that he told me to find a new servant for Jinjiang Court?" Chapter 268. Sheng Amren's face paled. "What did you say?" Qiao Mu scoffed. "You don't dare to believe it, right? He's planning to fire that servant called Lingling from Jinjiang Court and replace her with a new one." Sheng Amren's face was ashen. "Didn't you say he believed it?" "Yes, he believed it. But he still chose not to pursue the matter and pushed all the blame onto someone else, even though I already hinted to him that this matter wouldn't have anything to do with anyone else." "Then say more. Tell him that Yi Huanyan has ulterior motives." Qiao Mu glanced at her. "If I say another word, I'm afraid he'll fire me as well. What he wants is for himself and the people around him to believe that this matter has nothing to do with Yi Huanyan. He's deceiving himself." Sheng Amren was so angry that her face paled. "Is that so?" Qiao Mu took a deep breath and softened her voice. "In my eyes, he's just a bystander who's blinded by the situation. This matter had nothing to do with Yi Huanyan to begin with, but he believed the so-called evidence and thought that Yi Huanyan was the one who did it. Even though he harbored ill feelings, he still did not pursue Yi Huanyan's responsibility. He numbed himself and only vented his anger on those innocent people." "Don't tell me I can't do anything at all?" Sheng Amren collapsed onto the sofa with a pale face. Seeing her so despondent, Qiao Mu couldn't bear it and pulled her into her arms. "Must you stay by his side? He doesn't love you at all." Sheng Amren's face darkened. Regardless of whether he loves me or not, I have to take this final gamble. Late at night, after Yi Huanyan delivered supper to the study, she chatted with Ling Han for a while. Seeing that he was absent-minded, she casually asked, "Are there any problems with the company's matters? Are the losses very big? Do you need me to take a look?" Ling Han looked up at her with an indifferent expression. "Are you very concerned about the company's matters?" Yi Huanyan smiled faintly. "After all, I used to be an employee of pleasure. Plus, it was the hard work of you and Uncle Ling. How could I not care? I thought this matter would be difficult to solve, but I didn't expect Guan Nai's identity to be related to the Eastern European royal family." "Really?" Ling Han's eyes had a hint of melancholy. "Are you blaming me for not telling you about this?" Yi Huanyan's heart skipped a beat. She was stunned. "I didn't mean that." At this time, Ling Han had already lowered his head, so Yi Huanyan could not see his expression. Although she was suspicious, after thinking for a while, she just treated it as a casual remark. After a while, Ling Han spoke again. Among the leaked information this time, only Su Nianhua's information was not leaked at all. When she heard the 3 words Su Nianhua, Yi Huanyan's face tensed up slightly. She was nervous because Ling Han treated Su Nianhua as a thorn in his side and always misunderstood her relationship with him. She could not help but feel a little uneasy, so before she spoke, she warned herself to be careful. "Is that so? Does he have any amazing information?" "Of course. He's a popular singer. Recently, he's at the stage of releasing a new album and going on a nationwide concert tour. If his relationship is exposed, it will be a huge blow to our company. However, recently half of the entertainment industry has been implicated, so he has become a clean stream." Yi Huanyan looked indifferent and changed the topic. "Then the company's financial losses this year should be made up for by the concert, right?" Ling Han did not say anything for a long time. Yi Huanyan looked up at him and brushed the stray hair by her ear. She smiled gently and said, "Aren't you going to rest yet? It's 12 o'clock. You go rest first. There have been too many things to do in the company recently, and I also have a lot to deal with. I won't be able to accompany you properly for the next 2 days. Take care of yourself." "Okay." After responding, Yi Huanyan got up from the sofa and prepared to leave. Before she left, she glanced at the tray on the coffee table and reminded, "Remember to eat supper. Lingling will come to clean it up tomorrow morning." Ling Han lowered his head and did not look at the supper. He kept writing something in his hand and said in a flat tone, "I plan to replace Lingling. I've already asked Xiao Mu to find a new person. You don't have any objections, right?" Yi Huanyan's heart tightened and she frowned. No. Ling Han was naturally suspicious. For the past 2 days, she had been investigating the issue regarding the leaking of confidential information within Huanyu. She suddenly remembered that day when she had taken the file and sent it to the study. After that, she had gone to answer the call. Then, when Ling Ling had called her at the door for lunch, there was a period of time in between when she had not closed the study door. Perhaps she knew that it was not easy for her and Ling Han to get to where they were today. Even if she did not believe that Ling Ling was that kind of person, she did not want to get into a conflict with Ling Han for no reason. She just wanted to protect herself and stay out of it. With a click, Yi Huanyan's figure disappeared. The study door closed, and the sound of the door turning stopped abruptly. The study returned to silence. Behind the desk, Ling Han stared at the door with a cold look in his eyes. He had lived in peace for too long. It was only now that he realized that Yi Huanyan was different from before. If it was in the past, she would always ask herself, why? But now, she carefully obeyed all of his decisions. Was she really accommodating him out of feelings? Or was she deliberately avoiding something? The next morning, Yi Huanyan woke up to an empty space beside her. Clearly, he did not come back last night. When she opened the study door, he was no longer there. The supper on the coffee table was untouched. The layer on the bowl of beige porridge had solidified, and there was no warmth in it at all. Where's Ling Han? She went downstairs to find Lingling. Lingling was preparing breakfast. When she heard Yi Huanyan, she turned to look at her. Isn't he upstairs? Yi Huanyan shook her head. That's strange. Lingling wiped her wet hands on her apron and looked in the direction of the entrance. I woke up at 5 in the morning, but I didn't see the young master come down. Yi Huanyan frowned. She did not know why, but she had a bad feeling in her heart. Seeing Yi Huanyan like this, Lingling wiped her hands clean and went to the garage to take a look. When she came back, there was a gentle smile in her eyes. Miss Yi, the young master's usual car is not in the garage. He probably drove out. Maybe he had something to do at the company. Don't worry. Yi Huanyan nodded. She held her phone and turned to walk to the backyard. As she walked, she dialed Ling Han's number. The call went through quickly. A familiar voice came through. What's wrong? When she heard this voice, Yi Huanyan breathed a sigh of relief. When did you leave? This morning. Did something happen at the company again? Nothing big. Don't wait for me for lunch. I still have a meeting. I'm hanging up. After hanging up the phone, Yi Huanyan slowly exhaled. She just thought that the uneasiness in her heart was just her imagination. Maybe she really had too much free time recently. You're tuning in to the Earbook Haven YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.